Happy New Year, Benchmates, and welcome to Beyond the Box Art, the official podcast of the International Plastic Modelers Society UK. Please welcome your host, Paul Pendleton-Brown, with Mike Baldwin, Dan Brazil, Shane Cowie, Mark Housley, James Nevitt, and Paul Wong. And we are joined this episode by John Tabinor from Guideline Publications, the Podfather himself, Dave Goldfinch, and a surprise special guest. Beyond the Box Art is brought to you by Ammo by Mig Jimenez, Fishcom Model Company, Guideline Publications, Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, and the Scale Modelers Supply.
Hi Benchmates, and welcome to Season 2 of Beyond the Box Art, and our first show of 2026. A brand new year, fresh enthusiasm, and absolutely zero evidence that anyone's New Year resolution involved buying fewer kits. We're delighted to welcome back John Tabinor from Guideline Publications, joining us once again to talk through what's coming up across their range of magazines. If you'd like your modelling inspiration glossy, well-researched, and dangerously good at convincing you to start just one more project, there's bits for you. And this will be a regular feature, as Guideline Publications are now on board as one of our sponsors. So thank you very much for the team at Guideline for joining us. There's plenty of lively benchside discussion with the team as well, covering builds, techniques, rabbit holes of research, and the usual "how did this end up in my stash" moments. We're also joined by the Podfather himself, Dave Goldfinch from On the Bench, bringing his trademark wisdom, experience, and just enough mischief to keep us all in line, more or less. And then there's the big one. We're joined by the Managing Director of the winning manufacturer of the Beyond the Box Art Benchmates Kit of the Year 2025. Except when we invited him onto the show, he thought we simply wanted a nice, sensible chat about upcoming releases. He didn't know he was about to win. Who is it? You'll just have to listen and find out. As ever, we've got the regular favourites too, including a surprisingly large stash inflation report for this time of the year. Seriously, it got our hand. And look at what's actually on our benches right now, and what should have been finished by Christmas. Well, it will be by Christmas, we just won't say which year. So grab the first brew of the year, clear a bit of bench space, and settle in. Season 2 of Beyond the Box Art starts right now. Happy New Year, Benchmates. Welcome to episode 18 of Beyond the Box Art. And for this episode, I am joined by Dan.
Hello, Benchmates.
Boulders.
Benchmates, Happy New Year.
Nevs.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year of modelling.
Mark.
Happy New Year, y'all.
And John.
Happy New Year, everybody.
So, let's start like we normally do with what we've got on our bench and all the wonderful little presents we had from those underneath the tree from Christmas. So, Dan, what's on your bench at the moment?
On the bench at the moment is I've still got the B17. That's at the stage it's at. I also have the Land Rover, the Gecko Land Rover is a military Land Rover, but it's going to be a civilian one. That's going in a diorama. And I have looked at the different classes for next year's Telford very closely, and I need to make sure that what I'm doing qualifies for the correct class that I want to enter into. So a bit of planning is going into that. I also have we do a club Secret Santa, and we like to try and get each other things that they probably wouldn't necessarily build. Well, that's what I do and a few others do. And I got given this, which is totally out of my wheelhouse, and it's a Hasegawa F8E Crusader.
Nice kit.
And yeah, I know absolutely nothing about these. Well, I didn't until I started going down a YouTube rabbit hole. And first of all, the Last Gunfighter, how cool's that? This thing actually did fire proper bullets. And yeah, I've been watching a few walk around videos of some in some museums, and I've got this far with it. Never built a jet in my life. And it's got a wing that comes up and does loads of weird stuff. And I've got a pilot in there as well. You won't be able to see him, but it didn't come with a pilot. So he is a Second World War pilot from probably an old Airfix kit. And I needed to sculpt a helmet on him. So I used the Magic Sculpt 2-part epoxy putty that I got recently and had a go.
So he looks like a toon pilot, does he?
So you get quite a lot of working time with that stuff. And I use the silicone brushes, they're like basically a paintbrush with a silicone end and a bit of water, and just kept working it until I sort of formed it into a certain shape, kept working it until I was happy with it. And so that's done. And I've also got the engines for the B17. These are a bit of a project in themselves because there's 4 to do, and they're the Edward.
Ooh.
The Edward, yeah.
Wow.
All nice.
I'll be honest with you, they are nice. The kit ones are a bit soft and a bit bland, but I wish these were 3D printed. They're cast resin.
Oh, are they not?
No, and I'm so now anything resin I buy is 3D printed.
John Colasanti from Matters of Scale, I think, does a set, and they're 3D printed.
Ah, okay.
So maybe worth having a look at those.
Saying that though, I bet they weren't cheap, were they, Dan?
No, they're like 30 quid, I think. 35 quid for them. And I've got the metal undercarriage gear for it as well, because the HK undercarriage for it is fully extended. You know, the oleos, are they called? They're fully extended. There should be weight on it, shouldn't there? Surely.
Yeah.
So the metal ones, the Edward Brassin metal ones, are actually compressed. So I've got those. And recently, I'm just sticking them to a bit of card. While we've been chatting, I bought a crew for my B17. I've got a few more to go on there. It's a 10-man crew with a photographer, all in 48 scale. And they're 3D printed, and it's the photographer taking a photo of the crew. So they're going to be standing.
Are they looking pretty good?
They are really nice. And the plastic on them, the supports, there's enough on the feet. So what I've done, there's enough on the feet that I can leave them connected. So he's kneeling down, and the connection points are so tiny that I can leave him on there while I prime and paint, and then as I'm about ready to finish, I can then just pop it off.
Did you get them from a well-known auction site, shall we say?
They were, yeah, and the guy does quite a few different...
I've seen him. He does them in scales, different scales, the same figures, doesn't he? Yeah.
Different scales. He does RAF. He does this sort of generic photo guy, a crew having their photo taken. He does a crew riding jeeps going out to the bombers.
He's got quite a big selection, hasn't he?
Got quite a big selection. I don't know what the...
Not a bad price. I don't think they're a bad price neither.
Well, I wouldn't want to try and... Well, you wouldn't find them in plastic. And looking at the detail of them, they just cannot mould this in injection plastic. They cannot get that fidelity and that detail. I mean, I don't know what K printer it is. I got no interest. I've said it many times on it. I got no interest in getting involved with 3D printing. Not why there's a plethora of companies out there now that are quite willing to do it for you. I'd rather just...
Same here. I'm happy enough to buy it.
Buy the product. I've got no interest in it. It's another hobby that I just don't need, if I'm honest with you.
Me and you'll keep them going. We'll keep them going, eh, Dan?
Certainly will, mate. But it's great, isn't it? You just couldn't buy that in plastic anywhere, and now you can get it in.
Well, we've got Nebs on here. We can just ask Nebs. Have you got your printer up and going now, Nebs? Is it?
Oh, well, it's a miss. So problem is, it's an open air. It's not like, say, Brownies, which is an enclosure. So it's open to whatever the air wants to do to the filament. You can address it with dehumidifiers using desiccant, which is what I'm doing. And tampering with temperatures as well. That's what I've been doing. So some of the stuff is great. If you want anything like shelving and stuff like that and boxes, it can pretty much do. The stuff like I'm trying to do, the figures, sometimes they turn out pristine, the same as like you'd get off Italeri, or perhaps more of an Airfix figure, to be honest. But other times it's more like a Minecraft figure. So it's hit and miss, but the good thing is when you're missing, you're only wasting a few pence worth of filament.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so that's where I'm at. And present-wise, I got the Airfix Liberator D that I wanted, and I got the Tiger book from the Tank Museum that they did, Story of 131. So, yeah, really happy, really.
Fantastic. And what have you bought yourself?
Not much, to be honest with you, recently. Oh, actually, I did get a bottle of I don't know if this is new or not. It's the Tamiya Mark Fit, but it's the super strong.
It's good stuff.
It's, yeah, because I love Tamiya decals for their colour and the schemes, but I know they are a little bit thick. I've never had a massive problem with them, but I'm going to give that a go on them.
I got that this week. That's the odorless one.
I was going to say, yeah, this new non-smelling extra thin. So what's the verdict?
Tamiya taking the joy out of hobbying one step at a time.
Ice and a slice, or?
It has zero odour. It's quite remarkable.
And it still behaves exactly the same as the extra thin.
I tried it, and I think it takes a little bit longer to set up and kind of dry out than the extra thin.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty good. I joined a couple of tailplane pieces together.
Yeah.
And I was looking at them and looking at them and looking at them and thinking, is that still kind of wet, that glue? And it actually dries with quite a kind of sheen to it.
Okay.
But my advice would be be very sparing with it, because it is really thin, like the original stuff.
Yeah. And
it does seem to kind of it seems to be more aggressive as well. I'd be interested to see what other people think. It glued the tailplanes really well, but I was a bit worried that I'd put too much in, and I hadn't, and I've been quite abstemious with it. So yeah.
So John, can you do that? Can you do that thing where you get the two parts, you glue them together, and then you squeeze and unsqueeze, and actually make your own filler out of the plastic? Have you tried that? Does it do it?
It would. But based on the way that the plastic oozed out from the sort of attachment lug of the tailplane, I would say that yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. I'll get a bottle of that. Yeah, that's on the list. I'll get one at Bolton.
That's exactly what I plan to do. Okay then, moving on. Boulders. What have you got on the bench?
A 1 to 350th German pocket battleship.
Weren't you doing something else last time?
I'm waiting for a sprue replacement.
Oh, yes, of course you are.
I was given an Academy one, and there was some aftermarket in it. The difference between the two is quite surprising. So that's the Academy one, and that is the Trumpeter one. And the Trumpeter one's longer, so I measured it, worked out the calculations, and the Trumpeter one's accurate. So where Academy got their size and dimensions from is a bit weird. So, yeah, I've cracked on with it, done all the sub-assemblies.
They are the same scale, aren't they?
Ball 350th. Wooden deck is on.
Very nice.
So it's all in sub-assemblies. And it's going to be done in the scheme that she was in for the Battle of the River Plate, where she was actually camouflaged in the version of Battleship Grey and Olive Green, which is obviously olive green.
Okay.
So it's going to look nice once it's done. And I'll be able to use my Christmas presents, which were the two airbrushes, both Procons, PS289 and 270. So, yeah, hopefully I'll have it done for the club meet in January.
Is it going on a seascape?
It is. It's going on a seascape, but I might do it not sailing. I might just have the lifeboats or the smaller boats in the water.
Yeah, we said when we were at Halifax that the box art scheme was quite nice. Having one of the cutters off the stern was quite nice.
But if you look at the box art...
Is that the River Plate?
So, yeah.
So that could be the crew getting off before he scuttled it.
Possibly.
And obviously you'd have to look at the difference between where the ensigns are carried when it's at sea and where they're carried in harbour.
Ooh, we're getting a bit technical now, aren't we?
Well, in harbour, see, the thing is, and I've done a bit of research on this, the box art actually shows you in port at Montevideo.
You mean you've YouTubed it?
No, I've not YouTubed it. I've actually got books, so I've actually read. And on the box art, they put it in the plain grey scheme, but she wasn't in the plain grey scheme when she was at the Battle of the River Plate. She was actually in camouflage. So she's got two white bow waves on the front, and then the rest of the hull is in the grey, and then the superstructure and the guns are in grey and olive green.
Did they camouflage it in the film? Do you remember the film?
It was in black and white though, wasn't it?
But yeah, but what? No, it wasn't. Was it black and white?
Yeah, it was black and white. The Battle of the River Plate was black and white until it got changed to Technicolor. It was, and the ship in...
Yeah, it was actually Force in black and white.
Was it an American cruiser that in real life? The one they used?
It was the USS Des Moines, I think it was. It went over to South America and they actually used it because they had the same 3-pot guns on the front, so they used some of the footage for that. But I've got full photo etch for it, so the railings are going to be put on this one before it's painted. And it even has the eagle crest on the stern in photo etch in full detail. So that will also be put on. She's just a really, really unusual looking ship, and it's quite, you can see where modern destroyers and frigates have come from, because the conning tower was actually quite like a piece of Toblerone, is the best way to describe it. But yeah, she was just weird. And she even had a fake stack as well in the forces, because the Germans were that clever in disguising her while they were doing raids across the globe, because obviously they were raiding the Indian Ocean, and then obviously got caught, and then she got chased over to Montevideo, and that's where she came out, and they scuttled.
A nautical Fesmid.
Yeah, she was.
Wasn't that from HMS Surprise?
It was, yes, nautical Fesmid, because the sticking set, that's why they disguised HMS Surprise as a whaling ship.
Lucky Jack.
Captain Jack Alborough. So yeah, that's what's on the bench. Looking forward to finishing it, and yeah, the ship book has definitely been, because I'm already eyeing something else up, which is going to be a big project.
Boulders, it's quite interesting from what Mark from Kotare was saying about the 109 and trying to do it without having a swastika on the box art, but in an authentic scheme. Because I see on the Graf Spee box art, they've got round that by having the ensign sort of flapping, yeah. So you can see the red and the white of it, but not the actual swastika, which I just think is quite a clever way of doing it, that is.
Very, very clever, because what they've done as well, John, on the decals, is they produced the flag, and then you can see the part of the swastika, but then it's the rest of it's white, and then they give you a little cross to put onto the decal, and then obviously you turn it to make the swastika to do. You're building a historical ship, then obviously it's got to look right, so unfortunately the swastika will be going on the flags.
Are the flags provided as decals? I don't really know what they do with, yeah.
Yeah, so the provided as decals, when I built King George V, I actually put the decal onto foil.
Okay.
So that I was able to get so it looked like there was wind there and it was flapping in the wind. They go down really, really well. They stick to foil like there's no tomorrow, so it just gives you that, be able to twist.
Did you pre-paint the foil?
Just going to ask that.
No, didn't pre-paint it.
They go down really well, don't they, on the foil?
I just undersized it from the decal, so that the decal actually touched around the edges and that the foil was in the middle, and you can't really tell. So when you bend it and twist it, it doesn't crack. The decal doesn't crack, and it just gives you that flexibility.
Oh, well, I've learned something there, because I didn't know that.
To be honest, it was just trial and error. Obviously it's been done before, but I just.
What a few companies are doing now is they're producing a mini photo etch thread with the flag poles on in full colour. So you'll have the flagpole in metal and it'll look pristine. I know Eduard have got them, but there's some Japanese manufacturers that got them as well. So they'll put them, some will put them in the box for you. But that might be the future in terms of the flags.
But can you crease it and fold it and make it look like it's flapping in the wind, Nevs? Because etch is a bit of a nightmare for that. I mean, you're not going to anneal it, are you? Just
Yeah.
But funny enough, you should say that. So obviously, I've got photo etch from Chinese company for the 1350th USS Fletcher, and I've never ever seen photo etch so thin in my life, because the only photo etch I've ever used is Eduard's. Now, Eduard's is massively thick compared to this stuff, because it goes down, it doesn't crease, you start off and then you just roll it and it just stays. It's absolutely superb. It's about as thin as tinfoil, but it's got the strength behind it.
Tamiya's is like sheet steel. Core 10. It's really thick.
Well, it is sheet steel. Have you seen those? It's very thick, Tamiya, especially for like the seat belts. I was looking at something online about Nevs, going back to Nevs with these coloured flags. And there was a manufacturer done, and when they tried to bend it, the paint had actually delaminated from the photo etch. So I think it's obviously trial and error of how to do it, because paint isn't really flexible, is it?
Do you know what? And if you run out of your foil ones as well, there's nothing wrong with a proper inkjet one. Seriously, once you've got paper, two slices of paper, and then you can wave it round. If you're using a Pritt stick as well to stick it, even better, because that will add another layer. And if you've got, when I did Musashi, the main end sign on that, I'm pretty sure is just from a printer. So you can do them at home. And if you've got decent colours, they'll just turn out just as well. And they'll look better for it with all the waving and the techniques.
The amount of foil you have as well in modelling, I didn't realise this, like the packages from Swan and Morton blades is a foil and it's thin. All you have to do is just cut around the crimpled edge and then you've got a sheet of foil.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's got to be coloured on one side, but with a little bit of a light sand, that comes off. And it just becomes really, really bright.
Well, you'd normally sand it anyway, wouldn't you? Give it a light coating just to give it a bit of key, yeah?
Yeah, to give it a key, yeah.
I always keep, like the acetate sheet that you get on cakes and stuff like the birthday cakes and whatnot, the thin film, because a lot of the windows, particularly in some of the vehicles like the Land Rover, the glass is so thick.
Yeah.
So I can cut my own and almost have, that stuff is so thin, you can have almost scale thickness glass. It's fantastic. And from something that would just be thrown in the bin. I mean, give one of the Spanish manufacturers half a chance, they'll stick their name on it and sell it as scale model glass.
We are hoarders, by the way. Men are hoarders, especially in the model. They go, that'll be used for something. And then it sits in a drawer for a decade until you finally need to use it. And you just find that you've hoarded a lot of stuff.
Well, I just made some cables for the B-17. There's a white, I don't know if they're power cables that go from the Norden bomb site to the Bombardier's control panel. And I had left over from a job when the first fix electricians had gone in and they put the phone line cable in, and electricians are notorious for not tidying up all of their cut-off cables on a new build site. So I went round and picked all of these different copper cable lengths and bits and pieces up, and phone in this country, for our international listeners, phone cable, the internal of phone cable is perfect and it's really bendable and it holds its shape as well. Fantastic stuff. So yeah, always pick stuff like that up.
Okay, so the other thing you mentioned in that, Boulders, is a large project. What's the large project then?
Oh, I don't want to say yet because it's still being finalised.
It wouldn't be from a certain shop in Halifax, would it?
Possibly.
Okay, we'll come back to this one in a future episode then.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay then, Nevs.
So on the bench at the moment, I've got two things. I've still got the Grant in the background. Most of the parts are on it now. I'm attaching like a part a day to it. So I'll just show you that are visually inclined, because I know Mark was asking about it. It's pretty much all there. So just need a few more parts on the front and then it'll need priming. But I'm no expert in terms of British armour in the desert, so I'm not sure which paints are going to be best. It's basically in a desert scheme with an olive drab camouflage. So I'm going to do the one from, I think it's the Scots Dragoons that were at El Alamein. And I know Mark gifted me his Monty's mount from El Alamein in a very similar scheme. So same paints will be needed. The other thing that is on the bench preparing for Bolton is the Tamiya Indianapolis. So I'll just show you there. That seam line does not look as bad in person where I've done the 3D lower hull. It will be on my first ever Seascape in a box. However, as you can tell, it is full hull. So the idea is it'll be in a sheet of polystyrene. I've already got the cutout ready. And because it's a cruiser, essentially the polystyrene already takes up half of that lower hull anyway. It will sit flush in the box. And then around in the wooden box, I'll do like the story of the Indianapolis. It carried the nuclear bomb parts to Tinian ready for dropping on Hiroshima. So part of the hangar, I'm thinking to potentially put a little 3D printed wooden box in there to replicate the parts that were there. And I'm going to perhaps I've just ordered some photo etch for it, drew out the tiny doors as well. So in a few of the photos I've got, they've got like a door open on the hangar, whereas the hangar door's closed. And a few of the 5-inch gun mounts, they just sort of position, if they were to fire, they'd be firing up into the superstructure. But considering on its way to Tinian and technically afterwards as well, it wasn't really at action stations. It gives you a bit more liberty, I think, it's going to be a bit of a remembrance build for the crew that didn't survive because it was the worst US Navy loss of life at sea. Obviously, Arizona kind of takes the title in terms of, at port, but at sea, Indianapolis was the worst. And a number of the crew were killed in shark attacks, not as many as Jaws would have you believe.
I was going to say, weren't Captain Quince on that one?
So I'm a big fan of the unofficial, unauthorized Pacific War podcast. And I was telling Brownie about this, but one of the presenters there is the captain of the skipper of the Indianapolis when it was a nuclear submarine. And he did a lot of research into it. And it's fascinating. It's probably the worst shark attack in history because we don't know how many were killed by sharks, probably over 50 people in the water killed by sharks, which is terrifying in of itself. And they went after the...
Nevs, can I just ask you, how many people were actually in the water?
So 800 people went into the water, 316 came out of a crew of 1,200. So,
and how long were they in the water for?
5 days. So some were rescued a bit earlier when there was a PBY passing by and it picked up 50 of them, which is, I'm surprised it managed to take off. So there were a few ships that came to its rescue. The problem with the Indianapolis is no one heard the distress call. And even though the wireless operator went down with the ship to deliver the distress call, because of atmospheric interference and where it was in the Pacific, it was that stage in the war that the Americans were just so complacent. If a ship didn't report in, because they had that many of them, they just said, oh, the Navy has just shipped it off somewhere else. But that wasn't the case. It's fascinating.
Nevs, where can I find out? Where's the best place to start with learning that story? That sounds so interesting.
So what I found is, and Bill Toty, the captain that I was telling you about, he'll tell you the problem is there's not much source material out there that's good quality because they all jump on this Jaws bandwagon of, oh, sharks killed the crew, and the way he says it, it undermines the horrors the crew actually faced to say, oh, they were all killed by sharks. They weren't, they were killed by, some had to turn on each other because of dehydration. They just went mad. Many were injured because it was torpedoed after all. So I would definitely check out the podcast, Unauthorized History of the Pacific War. The episode is called Indy Maru, which was the nickname of the ship. So INDY-MARU. An hour and a half. It's a gold mine in terms of the history of the ship. And I've gone through it, listened to it a few times. There's so many fascinating pictures of it as well. It's home. It's de facto home in terms of where it kept getting refitted so many times throughout the Pacific War is Mare Island in California, and they took pictures every single time it was in harbour, including as it was being outfitted to take the atomic bomb parts just before it picked them up. So there is plenty of source material online for looking at that. So like I say, there's going to be parts of the build which will be a homage to those pictures. Like I say, I'm going to have one of the 5-inch gun mounts pointing upwards as a reference to that. I'm trying to put a lot of thought into this one because, it's a really important, really interesting ship. And obviously I know we've gone on a bit of a tangent.
Is it one of the wrecks do they know where it is? Have they found it, yeah?
Yeah, they found it. They found it. Nevs, didn't the captain get court-martialed for it and then later exonerated after he killed himself?
Yeah, fascinating. So basically, I'll cut it short because we're not a history podcast. They weren't zigzagging.
That could be the next one.
They weren't zigzagging, which you probably know is the common way that you would avoid submarine interception. It was not a clear night as such, but there were bits where the cloud cover broke. So basically the Japanese submarine, very late war, obviously, we're talking 30th of July, days before the atomic bombs dropped. It managed to get this break in the cloud cover, the I-58. And so, of course, the US Navy said, why weren't you zigzagging? Well, he'd just sped run across the Pacific. He made a time record, I don't think it's been broken to date, of the time from San Francisco to Pearl Harbor. Did it in 72 hours. The average speed that they were going at, it was crazy. They were also under an order to conserve fuel because they thought they'd have to invade Japan. So they were told to slow down for that. And he was also told by US naval intelligence that there was no submarines at all. So why would he bother zigzagging? But yes, as Baldus said, they used him as a scapegoat. They said he endangered the ship and he was court-martialed for that. They said they weren't court-martialing him for the fact that it sunk, but because he didn't zigzag. And even though many survivors didn't blame him and they tried to invite him to the meetups for years afterwards, there were other survivors that did, and the families are the ones that died. So the survivors normally defended him, but the families are the ones that didn't. Not the letters that he'd receive were awful, and that's what led to the suicide. But like I say, Captain Toti, who's on the podcast, he leads the exoneration in 99, and he does the research, and he says there's nothing that Captain McVeigh could have done to avoid that sinking that night. If it zigzagged, it would have gone into a torpedo anyway. He was...
Weren't they under communications blackout as well whilst they were in transit with the parts? They were told not to communicate with them.
Yeah, the certainly parts.
So that the Japanese didn't get picked. So the Japanese didn't pick it up because obviously the Japanese had listening posts everywhere. So they didn't want the communications to be raised as suspicion that the Americans were about to do.
It broke radio silence for the distress call.
Yeah.
It was on an open channel to say, this is what happened. And Captain McVeigh, he was actually unconscious at the time of the sinking, so he couldn't have volunteered to go down with the ship. I know that's seen as the romantic thing to do, but it was held up in his trial that, you decided not to go down with the ship. Well, actually, he was unconscious, and so on. One of these other officers had to get him off. So, yeah, that was a very long history lesson on what is.
What was that podcast called again, Nevs?
The Unauthorized History of the Pacific War. I think it's one of the earlier episodes, but like I say, Indy Maru, and the co-presenter is fascinating in terms of his naval history and his experience.
Does sound interesting, that. What a story.
Yeah.
There is a film with Nicolas Cage in it as well.
And the film's quite good.
Oh, is there a film?
Nicolas Cage plays McVeigh.
Oh, it's quite a modern film then.
Yeah, USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage, it's called. From what I remember, I've not watched it in years, he does play a pretty good rendition of him. It's one to watch as well.
It's amazing the catalyst that a plastic model kit can
Oh, God, yeah.
send you on a little discovery, a little history lesson. It's great, isn't it? I've been watching Vietnam, the guys that flew these Vietnam and all the rest of it, or wherever it was, and you're just like, this is nuts. I didn't know anything about this,
I think the research is a big part of it. Well, it is for me. I enjoy looking at finding stuff out.
I think sharing that as well. Sharing that is just as important.
But then when you're doing something where so much of what we do is a killing machine that has killed or people have been killed inside, when you are following a specific story, or, me with my US bomber crews and stuff, it honestly, some of what I read about, it really does bring me to tears. My missus be like, yeah, you're right. It's like, yeah. This is more vivid than any film will ever do when you're reading the history about what these guys went through, whatever it is, whatever battle, whatever war, whatever conflict. And I think if you're going to do it, it does deserve to be done to the best of your ability, as a modeler, to do the subject where someone has paid the ultimate sacrifice. It's up to you to do it as good as you can do it at whatever stage you're at in your modeling journey, So yeah, it's quite an important one. It really is.
What I've been spending my money on, and the problem is I do get invested in these stories. So I've picked up the Revel, Bismarck and Tirpitz, and I've got to show you two because I know our listeners can't see, but the box arts on both of them is just amazing. That Bismarck, but more important, Tirpitz, they managed to scoop this off King Kit. The box art on these is just second to none. And like I say, you get invested in these stories, and the books you want to pick up, you're thinking, I'm going to spend more on the books than I am on the kit. But at the end of the day, yes, the killing machines, like you say, Dan, and perhaps Nazi weapons of war, and they're involved in various things, but there were people behind them, and finding out, yeah, they might have been on the wrong side. Of course, you don't condone anything the Kriegsmarine were up to, but like the terror that those crews must have faced, particularly at Bismarck, when it's
Rodney went up against Bismarck, and when they went to sink it, the crew cried. I've got a book on it. It's absolutely fascinating, and it's told by a German sailor. And they said when it came through on the tannoy, that Rodney, they absolutely cried because they knew they were in Yeah.
They were point blank. They said when it came in, because the Bismarck was built like, they were both built like a tortoise. They got to point blank range after wiping out its main and secondary guns. And essentially the turrets of Rodney and the other battleships and cruisers that were there, they didn't elevate.
No, they didn't. They were straight.
Zero elevation. It's like something out of the 18th century. And I know the survivors were treated very well by, I think it was Exeter that picked them up. But
I think Exeter picked them up and a couple of destroyers picked them up. But the reason they went at it was because obviously they'd sunk the pride of the Royal Navy, which was HMS Hood.
Yeah.
And Churchill was absolutely fuming over it because he didn't want it to go because it was due a refit. And once we found out that they lost the Hood, he just lost his temper and said sinker.
Yeah.
So that's when if it hadn't been for that lucky swordfish getting the rudder, I don't think they'd have caught her because she'd have been in Brest.
So yeah, there's so many stories to it. I mean, Tirpitz is my favourite. I just love the Queen of the North.
The thing is, though, Mike, as well, she would have been gotten eventually.
If it had been gotten eventually, even if it was by her raid dropping bombs when she was in port in Brest.
And also, Nevs, you've got to remember, them guys, they didn't think they were on the wrong side.
No, of course, but the main point I'm trying to make is that, yes, there's sides to things, and not everything's black and white. I think you're right there, that some were obviously drafted and they didn't have that much choice, and they just sort of took what they made the best out of what they could.
Considering they fought hard.
Yeah.
They must have realised that the regime they were fighting for wasn't...
Not everybody was a card-carrying member of the organisation. If everybody in your town or your village is going, you don't want to be the one who gets who gets presented with a white feather. Where's your uniform? Why are you not in uniform? So you just went and let's just get this done, get it over with, and I just want to go back home to... And as varied as we all are here sitting, you imagine that across a crew of a ship or a crew in a tank or a crew in a bomber or a group of guys at a fighter base or wherever. You get every different personality, and everybody we might have all been trained to do the job that we've got to do, but we all deal with stress very differently and we all react to situations differently. So, and you get that, you don't just get that on British or Allied stuff, you're going to get that on the other side as well. You are going to get the lunatics that are fully paid up and well into the whole mindset of the thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And that is the human story about it all. That's what all of this ultimately comes down to, is we're trying to tell... You're telling it to yourself and to people that want to stand there and look at it and talk about your model. You're telling the human story at the end of the day, aren't you?
Alan Ball to Bismarck, though, was Lutyens, because he was a very, very arrogant person that just thought that Bismarck was invincible. It had really good armour and everything else. And obviously he went down with...
That wasn't the captain. Wasn't that an admiral? Was that?
No, he was an admiral. Lutyens was the admiral.
But then that's the mentality of the regime boulders. They were told that they were the best. They were told that they were the best and that they were superior. And this thing was going to be done and dusted and quick. And it was the ultimate mess around and find out, wasn't it?
And then suffered the fury, the wrath of Rodney and King Josephine. And if you look at the images of the wreck of Bismarck and you see the main armoured control centre, you'll see the 16-inch shell went in and there's nothing on the other side because it just blew the panelling out at close range, like you say. Guns weren't. And the good thing about Nelson and Rodney class was that obviously all our main armament was at the front, so the main 3 turrets, but our secondaries were also impressive because at the back she was a behemoth.
The concussion and the kinetic energy that must have gone through people.
Well, one of the stories that was fascinating, I think it's either behind C or D turret, but when, all the crew that are in the bowels of the ship and they realise that they're going to go down, there's just hundreds of them straddling behind this, because obviously the barbettes are quite well armoured. They're taking cover behind this barbette and they must have been terrified. They'd left battle stations. They're literally just in a fight for survival. It must have been terrifying.
You know, Nevs, you did a really nice little chat there. It was really good. I enjoyed that, mate.
Thank you.
In that case, Mark. What have you got on your bench?
I've still got my little model that I'm doing for the Bolton show, the Tamiya thing, me Wildcat. And that's it. Nothing else on the bench. Nothing really. That's it. Struggling with it, to be honest with you. Kind of when you're building something you're not really interested in, that kind of thing, that's kind of crept over me.
You're not tempted to do the Mosquito instead?
I don't know. I brought it up just in case, but it's time's passing, and I struggle with the advanced modeler syndrome. Where I think, oh, I'll just do this and I'll just do that, and before I know it,
It's 5 weeks to the show, Mark. 5 weeks under.
well, I'll do one or two things. I'll either miss it or I'll do it. It'll be done for Sunday. It's one of them for me. Crazy, but that's it. That's pretty much it on my bench.
Okay, and I'm just looking at my watch and just thinking, this is going to take a while. What have you been spending your cash on then?
What little I've now got left this week has been a little bit of a bumper crop. So I picked up the Tacom Henshaw 129B2 with a B3, which also included a 48 scale Panther tank
Oh, hello.
by Tacom. I know.
A 48 scale? Oh,
48th, yeah. Right up your Strasser.
oh my. Oh, the Goldilocks of armour scale.
On the sprues, they look really nice. I've not seen any reviews or I've not seen anybody build any anywhere, but that's...
Don't bury that too far in the stash. I want to have a look at that one.
No, you're welcome. And then also I picked up the Hobby Mark 1 Hurakanski, as well as, just because I've been doing the Wildcat, because I've been kind of researching, it's it's a Mark 6, which I think is the FM2, which, after the, yeah. So I don't know why, a little 144 Marauder, simply because I ended up buying the big Marauder as well from ICM.
Hold on. The 144, is that Hobby Boss?
You have to do it in perspective.
No, it's Academy or Minicraft as it once was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Cute, nice little thing. And last but not least, well, not last, the Hamden.
The flying suitcase.
Lovely, really nice. Again, looks great.
It is stunning.
I'm pretty sure there's probably one or two people building it already on YouTube to get it out there quickly. And I also picked up a new little toy today, I think that's how you say it, the event.
You need another airbrush like a moose needs a hat rack.
Moose need their bag.
I know, I just like to, and it was a good price. Yeah, it was a good price. It's it's 40 quid off it if you want to.
What's the needle size in that, Mark?
It comes with two, it comes with a 0.4 and a 0.2. And I have, unfortunately, when you buy something, then you see a few reviews, and a lot of people have been having a go at the trigger, but I've not fired it up yet, but this feels actually quite smooth. And they're saying there's a little bit of which you get on all airbrushes, there's not many that don't, is the delay time between movement there and movement on the needle. But this seems...
The cover, because it's stuck, give a little bit of a play with it and it should ease itself off.
The only thing, I'll tell you what is weird, is what I'm aware of straight away, is you can see that the angle of the inlet for the air inlet is obviously an angle where you look at most other airbrushes.
Cons are on an angle as well, Mark.
Are they really?
Yeah, I'm holding one, as the rest of the Benchmates can see.
Well, generally, Iwata and Steenbeck, all the other sort of big names. Oh my God, he's painting that. The straight.
I think when it's angled, I think it's better on the hand than straight.
Mark, you haven't left paint in your airbrush, have you?
All the time, mate. I let them dry and everything, yeah.
That's why he's got 32 airbrushes.
Oh, my OCD is shuddering there.
Bit of thinners in it overnight. A bit of thinners overnight. No, actually, no. It was on the outside, really, he says. I've actually been on holiday once, and I came and I had some MRP in it. It was black. And I'm looking at it thinking, oh, God, no, what have I done? And I just went, and it sprayed. I couldn't believe it. It actually sprayed. Still going. But yeah, so I'll be probably having a play with that at some point.
Good grief.
So that's been I'm glad the wife doesn't listen to this, because otherwise I would be in Doo-Doo Street.
Oh, I'll send a recording for the new year.
That's me done. That was quick, wasn't it, for me?
For you, yeah, I know. Blimey. Okay, John, what have you got on your bench?
I've got a couple of things at the moment, actually. I'm still fighting my way. Well, I say fighting is the wrong word. I'm still working my way through old school Dynavector Vacuum de Havilland Hornet, which is slowly taking shape. And it's
Masochist.
It's the second time I've built one of these, so I know what I'm in for.
So you know the pitfalls.
Yeah, but it's had corrected wings with the raised sections inboard of the engine nacelles. The engine nacelles have had the eyebrows added, very, very slight eyebrows for the Merlins, which...
When you say corrected, John, do you mean you've corrected them, or is it something you've bought? Is it like an aftermarket thing?
No, that's old school plasticard super glue.
Oh, scratch building kind of thing, yeah. All right. Where have you corrected it?
So I don't. Yeah, this will be for the listeners. This will be edifying. In between the engine nacelle and the fuselage, the forward section above the radiator is actually slightly raised on the real thing, and it's quite hard to see in pictures because it's a very smooth kind of profile. But when you get the light on it, you can just see the back edge of it. And it makes a big difference on the actual model because all of a sudden it's quite a smooth airframe. It's very aerodynamic, but it shows up very clearly. So they've been added. The radiators themselves, actually, it's hard to show. The radiators don't follow the line of the wing. They kind of angle down from the engine nacelle towards the fuselage. So when you're looking at the aircraft from the front, it makes it look like the inner section of each wing is kind of like slightly angled down, and it's not. It's just the way the radiator is aligned, and there are all these subtle little things that just give it a bit of its character.
So in the kit in the first place, was the radiators completely wrong with it wide open?
Not totally, no. Not certainly nowhere near as bad as Trumpeter's effort, which was kind of really bad. But when you add this raised section over the wing, you can then reshape the front of the radiator inlet and sort of angle it down slightly. So that's all been going on. The fuselage has been lengthened at the back, all sorts of stuff.
Was it another wooden wonder, or was it all metal, this one?
It was half and half. The wings were, I think, plywood on top with the nacelles in metal, and the underneath was skinned because it was strengthened, obviously, for hard points. But the fuselage itself is a plywood mosquito, like big kit, join it in two halves.
Two part, like a model, like a kit.
This kit at least gets the windscreen angle right, which is the big failing of most Hornet kits, because the windscreen lower line is flat, and on most kits they angle it, which is terrible. So that's just slowly crawling along. In the meantime, I got myself nicely invested in the relatively recent, the last year, Airfix Spitfire 9, which is going along. That's going to be finished as a post-war South African Air Force Spit 9. So it's got clip wingtips, bomb racks, and zero-length rocket stubs under the wings. The South Africans used about 40 of them after the war, mostly as fighters and also as lead-in trainers for Mustangs when they entered a career.
Have you done this from out of the box?
That's pretty much the only thing I've added to that is some Edward steel seat belts, some really nice little cockpit decals in there from Airfix. I've got to say, it actually makes a real difference just having a little bit of cockpit decaling. That weird lump of plastic behind the rear of the cockpit is just an attachment point for the wire that held the seat harness. So that's most of my time has been spent over the last few weeks trying to research serials, because there are many pictures of South African high-back post-war Spitfires, and there's certainly not many tie-ups to codes to actual South African serials.
What's the interest with South Africa? What brought that one on?
Partially, my partner is from Cape Town, so that kind of makes a difference. Also, I think when I was on before, I was saying about Marmaduke Patel as being the unsung highest-scoring RAF ace, who's obviously South African. And also, I mean, South Africa kind of just doesn't get a massive mention when compared to some of the other Commonwealth Air Forces. You know, they fought in the Middle East, they fought in East Africa, they pulled their weight, you know, I mean, and the apartheid years kind of really wrote them out of, I think, a lot of histories of warfare, which is ironic because when you look at people like Sailor Milan, you know, the Battle of Britain ace, I mean, he came back after the war and was very much anti the new sort of discrimination laws. So, yeah, and it's just interesting me because they kind of, again, I like the orange markings. I like the fact that they use things like Mohawks. They use even Junkers 86s that they seconded from their from their airline and use them as bombers. You know, they've got quite a mixed bag of stuff. So they make quite interesting kits. And my Christmas presents this year were unfortunately self-bought because my partner knows best to try and second guess modelling things. So I invested a reasonable chunk of money into two things. One is the Halberd Models Martin AM1 Mauler in 1/48 scale, which is a resin 3D printed model of a kind of, think of a Douglas Sky Raider on steroids, and you kind of got the gist of that. It did actually see service, but it was quite complex and heavy. And basically the Sky Raider did everything it could do, but a lot more efficiently. But it does look really cool. I mean, it's just a vast chunk of glossy blue, basically. So it's quite nice. And then on the back of the South African Air Force Spitfires, I tracked down a copy of the only book ever written about the Spitfire in South African Air Force service, which was published about 25 years ago by a retired South African Air Force general. And I should find a copy of that in Johannesburg. And that's still winging its way towards me. The shipping costs the same as the book. And I'm not going to tell you what the book costs. So it was worth it. I mean, there was one print run and they just don't appear very often. So, you know, if you want one, you just have to bite the bullet, really. So, yeah, that's it, really. That's where we are in the new year.
Okay. Well, on my bench at the moment is the Tamiya 1/32 Spit, which is making slow progress, but hopefully it'll be done in time for the Bolton show. For those that don't know and haven't heard, the Bolton show is a large quantity of those on the pod. It's our IPMS branch. And the theme for the 2026, or this year's show as it is now, is 80 years of Tamiya. So there's going to be a large display of Tamiya kits, various shapes, sizes and genres. Hopefully that'll be done in time, but because I have just changed jobs as of the new year, as of today, I'm now working for another company, and the airfield I'm now working at had a proliferation of Spitfires. So my purchases have been an Airfix 1/48 Spitfire 12, of which is the only kit that's actually got the squadron that was based at Aberporth in the box, which was 595 Squadron. So if anyone's got any Spitfire 12 decals lying around for 595 and they don't want them, please, I need some other 595 markings for the stash. Also bought the new Airfix Spit 9 because they had some LFs and HFs of the 9 variant there. I'm probably going to regret this, but I've bought myself a Magna Models Miles Master 1, which I think is going to be quite a challenge to actually try and put into some resemblance of a representation, but to get a 1/48th Master, it's not a lot of options on the list. Also a Special Hobby Airspeed Oxford, which they used as a hack down there, and a Mustang 1, which was a really unusual bird that 595 operated. But so that's been my purchases as well, along with some Meteors. I shan't say how many I've bought.
How many? 5, 4?
Yeah, second number.
Oh, nice.
I've got 4 of them. Yes.
Whose kit is the Mustang 1, Brownie?
Academy.
It's Academy, yes.
Is that the Accurate Miniatures Reeboks, presumably? Yeah. Okay.
Is it the 86 Air patch it was originally designated as?
Yes. Or the Mustang 1 in RAF service. But it was literally the very first airframe that 595 had for a while. So slightly unusual scheme, but hey-ho. Anyway, whilst we've been recording this, a message has just dropped from Airscale with some interesting CAD work. They are looking at a conversion set for their 1/32 Typhoon, which they're releasing as a limited run with the car door as the out of the box. But they have put the CAD up. They're not saying they will or they won't do it, but for a bubble top conversion, which I think personally is a much better option shape-wise.
It's the best. It's the better looking Typhoon.
Didn't Airfix do the car door?
Not in 32nd.
They did them both. They did the bubble. Oh,
There's 1/24th.
No, in 24th.
bubble top version and the car door.
Yeah. Of which, for the car door, the best car door option is the ice cream rather than the actual Typhoon.
Oh, God, here we go again. The dad jokes.
Well, I borrowed your book. Anyway.
I told you to keep that a secret, Brownie.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, so yes, Airscale's just announced that. So I've just shared that on our Facebook. So if you want to have a look at that, more than welcome to obviously have a look. But that's it from my side. So with that, we will have a short break, talk to some of our sponsors, and then we will actually speak to one of our sponsors.
And now, the Guideline Publications monthly update with John Tabinor, with what's in February's magazines, including SAM, MMI, and much, much more.
Right, a new section of the show. We are going to have a spotlight from one of our sponsors, which is Guideline Publications, talking about what's coming up in the upcoming issues of the magazine. And so, obviously, this is the reason why John is with us for this episode. So, John, over to you.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Brownie. And we'd just like to say how pleased we are to be sponsoring Beyond the Box Art. We've watched it grow with great speed and rapidity, and we're really pleased that we can hopefully help you carry on with that.
Thank you very much. It's much appreciated, and it's a mutual from our side.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's nice. I have to say, one of the things that we kind of appreciate is the fact that it's, although the reach is international, global, as are the reach of magazines, it's kind of nice to have a particularly British slant on things. And I think that's something that, especially with scale aircraft modelling, that we've always had that kind of English sort of quirk on, or British, I should say. Sorry, apologies to the other members of the United Kingdom. We've always had that kind of slight quirk about the magazines like that. So it's quite nice that this podcast is equally this side of the Atlantic. But what we're going to do is run through what you can expect to see in the February editions of the magazines, which will be coming out the week of Thursday, I think the 22nd of January. It's the Thursday before the Bolton show.
Okay.
The two main magazines come out, which are obviously Military Modelcraft International, MMI, and Scale Aircraft Modelling, SAM. Model Car, Truck and Motorcycle World will probably come out at the same time, and the other slightly more niche magazines will be out towards the end of the month, but probably around the 29th.
Knitting and crocheting.
Yes, that's one of the subscription-only ones that we do. Crochet Monthly.
Oh, you got Mark hooked already.
They'll probably get me to design that one as well.
Sorry, mate. I couldn't resist it, honestly.
MMI, Military Modelcraft International. The armour profiles in the February edition look at two of the US Army's first Cold War tanks, the M26 Pershing and the M46, which was the first of the pattern line of, I suppose, what would be called medium tanks, but became main battle tanks, really, when they were more fully developed. This looks at their initial kind of employment, and I think also their use in the Korean War. There are two builds of 135th scale models of these, the M26A1 by Ken Abrams, and Ilya Yut does a Korean War M46. If I had to put money on it, because I haven't seen it, I bet it's the one with the yellow glacis plate and the big jaws, because that's the only M46 that served in Korea. Anyway, we also have in 135th scale, I believe, prototype Tiger 1 from Matt Edwards. So that will be one for the Wehrmacht fans. And if you are more interested in small scale military modelling, a United States Marine Corps island hopping LVT-4, and in 148 scale, Tamiya Joseph Stalin 2, the IS-2 by Ramon Segara, which I know Ramon's work, and it would be a fantastic looking bit of modelling, that. Moving right up to date, in 135th, Meng's Black Panzer Pard, finished as a Ukrainian version, tasked with defeating Russian drones, is in the magazine. And then there's a debut this month for a new chap, Sean Pecker, who has a Rolls-Royce armoured car serving in German Southwest Africa, which is now Namibia, during the First World War. So again, that's quite a nice little niche bit of modelling and an area of the First World War, theatre of the First World War, that's perhaps not as known as it should be. And finally, Tamiya's brand new 148 scale Leopard 2, the A7V variant, is built and painted by Rob Riezzo. So that's the lineup for MMI. There'll be all the usual things to go with that.
Fantastic.
And then coming out in the magazine that I have a little bit of involvement with, scale aircraft modelling. My aircraft in profile in this issue is the North American AJ-1 Savage, twin-engine United States Navy nuclear attack bomber from the late 40s and early 50s.
That was a weird-looking machine.
So, very weird, man.
Is that the one that the biggest one to take off from an aircraft carrier?
Yeah, pretty much the biggest operational aircraft to run off an aircraft carrier. It was a mixed power. It had a turbojet buried in its rear fuselage with an air intake on top of the fuselage that opened when it was required. And basically, the bomb bay was built to take the early mark of a nuclear weapon, the Fat Man style thing. So that was what they basically built the bomb bay around. Well, actually, they built it around two 2,000-pound bombs, so there's a bit of room, extra room. But yeah, massive aircraft. And two variants that are actually quite different from each other, plus the photo reconnaissance ones.
Didn't Italeri do that in 72?
No. Valom, I think, have done one in 1/72nd.
Roden did one as well, I think, if I remember.
Oh, no, sorry, that's it. I beg your pardon. Yeah, Roden did one. I don't think anyone's ever done a 1/48th one unless Collect Air had a resin one, because they probably went through the entire 50s United States Navy inventory.
Of which the Savage wasn't the largest aircraft to obviously operate off of a carrier, which was a C-130 Hercules.
Hey?
On a one-off ad hoc basis, yes.
It did something like 20 landings, so it still counts.
In fact, I wonder whether it would certainly have been the largest, when it was the largest twin-engine reciprocating engine aircraft, though. Certainly bigger than a Mitchell.
Yes. Just thinking that. Vigilante's big, but that's jet.
It was as big as a Sky Warrior.
It's got a look of a Sky Knight, hasn't it, with props?
They all, I mean, all those last generation kind of piston engine aircraft all look, I think, really cool, because they know how all the aerodynamics work. They know how to fare in all the engines to give everything quite a sleek look. So you can get quite a bulbous aircraft, but it still looks quite nippy. The photo reconnaissance versions are really cool. The noses are just all over the place because they're camera noses, and they just look absolutely fantastic.
Well, I'm sure the members of the Model Geeks will actually get in touch and say if we're right or wrong on that one.
I'm sure they definitely will. Also in the February issue of Scale Aircraft Modelling, we have part 5 of Steve Danucci's historical series on the Malaya crisis, which looks at the later operations by Commonwealth forces, which I think has been a very interesting series. I quite like these small wars of end of empire. I think a rich theme of modelling as well as quite interesting history.
Yes.
We have, funnily enough, a 1/32nd scale Spitfire Mark 14 conversion based on the Tamiya this issue as well. I believe by one Mr. Jamie Hago, if memory serves. So that will be interesting to see what he does with that, with his normal weathering. And then for a trip down memory lane, for all of you who are about my age or a little bit older, we've got 3 classic 1/32nd scale and possibly 1/24 scale Mustangs. We've got the Hasegawa and Duyusha kits, and then there's also the Dragon 1/32nd scale one.
Oh my God.
Which I think had the award at the time for most rivets in a confined area.
Dayusha one's the same, it's the Dragon kit reboxed.
Is it not the original? Didn't Duyusha do a 1/24th one years ago?
No, it's a rivet fest. They did a 24th one donkeys yonks ago with Matt. You've got one of the rare ones as well in your stash, the Japanese. Is it the Oscar or the George in 24th?
Oh, the George, I think it is, yeah.
George, because that's a Dayusha one as well. That's a pretty rare bird, but yeah. But Dayusha have got the 32nd Mustang, and it's dragons. You can tell because the wings are just a rivet fest.
I've got both them. I've got the Dragon and the Dayusha one. I'll have to have a check of that. I thought they were different. Because I think they did the Zero as well, the Dayusha, and that's quite rivety as well, shall we say. But that Dragon one, I was trying to offload it, and I couldn't even give it away.
It was a kit that came out to much kind of like hallelujahs, wasn't it? And then everybody opened it and went, ooh.
Oh my God, what's going on? I mean, as a kit built, it might be fine. I don't know. It might go together lovely. Might even look all right.
From Hallelujahs to Hail Marys.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you'll be able to see what happens to them in this issue of Scale Aircraft Modelling. So, yes. get yourself down to the newsagents and pick up a copy. Okay, so also in Sam, in 148 scale, we've got ICM's Cessna 02, which is a quirky looking little thing, very nice. And Swords Reggiani 2005, the 2005, which is obviously one of those very beautiful third generation Italian Second World War fighters, which unfortunately came a little bit too late for the Regia Aeronautica and the ANI. But I think nevertheless was still probably a bit of an unpleasant surprise for slightly overconfident Allied pilots over Italy in the later years of the war. In 172nd scale, Italeri's F-27 Friendship is modelled in a maritime reconnaissance role. And we have the Hobby Ross Seahawk helicopter and Valom's Bristol Brigand, tying in, I suspect, with the Malaya articles. Again, another aircraft which I would love to see done properly in 148 scale, but that might be a 3D printed version. I could imagine that being suitable. Again, I'd pay good money for one of those. And the editor, Gary's favourite scale, 1/144th. There's the Korea Lead Electra, which will tick all the boxes for Gary because it's small and civilian and slightly quirky. And I know he'll have put it in for those reasons. Colour Conundrum, as usual, plus reviews, previews, news and updates. So, yes, we always aim to try and give you a decent spread of things in that. Model Car Truck Motorcycle World, which was delayed from December to January, coming out in a couple of weeks now, because we just changed the print schedules around slightly. Anybody that was expecting it over Christmas, retroactively sorry about that, but you can start the new year with a decent read. I've tried to give people a decent mix of subjects, which is always the aim with this magazine. I have, in no particular order, I've got this month, actually, strangely, we're mostly 124 scale. I've got a fantastic build by American chap called Bill Horton, the Suzuki X-Star bike, which looked really, really nice, with tips on how to build Tamiya kits. I've got another motorbike, the Honda NSR 500, the kind of 80s, 90s racer, Rene van der Hart. That's really good. I've got 2 or 3 absolutely superb bits of paintwork in this issue. Manu Gill, who people may know works for Ammo, has got a brilliant bit of finishing with a Mazda MX-5. And Ilya Yutz, who again is quite well known in the sort of modelling world, is back with another of his only second car build, actually. And it's the Citroen C3, the World Rally Championship. So both of those, I know a lot of people there's a lot of finishing in motorcycles and car kits. And I kind of think it's something that people that don't build them sort of don't appreciate. They're very modular. But these guys actually managed to do that and put a lot of weathering and put a lot of kind of just realism into these things. So they look really good.
They look even better in real life as well, car models at shows. When you see them, they look absolutely incredible. They really are. Yeah.
Yeah. Little gems when they're done properly. Hugh Morgan has an inbox review of the recent Lancia Fulvia from Italeri in 124th. And I know he's just finished building it as well, so that will be in the next issue. Nick Allen has got an abandoned Chevy 1941 pickup in 1/2 scale, going from memory. And Hugh Morgan has ICM's Renault AHN2 truck, which was a kind of a military Second World War truck that was then released onto the civilian market post-war. And it's one of those very angular, corrugated French kind of things that kind of looks like it should just fall apart the first pothole it hits. And funnily enough, he's built it on a diorama where it's a leaky radiator. We've also got diecast news, which features mostly American fire trucks and pump engines this month. That's something we always try and have a bit of in the magazine. I've got a nice little build, a bit of history about that classic 70s British three-wheeler, the Bond Bug, which Airfix reissued, I think, in 2024 by a guy called Trevor Pass. And for people wanting some serious truck action, the Spanish Pegaso lorry is built as a recovery truck by Eric Fontaine. So it's got a scratch-built recovery section at the rear with a truck lifter and a crane on it. That's a really nice bit of modelling. That's a 3D printed kit to which he's put onto a chassis and then scratch built things. I've also got a couple of other special little things in there, some not plastic models, which I shall leave the readers to find as a surprise in my attempts to encourage people to widen their modelling horizons. So hopefully those will go down well. And one last truck, another bit of classic 70s European heavy-duty motoring. The Volvo N88, finished to match the replica in a museum in Holland. That's by Dutch modeller Kees Kamp. So that's well worth a look if you know his work. He's another guy that will scratch build a lot of stuff. So hopefully that's enough for everybody in there. And then the final bits of the guideline portfolio are the railway magazines, which obviously has quite a faithful following. And I know there is a bit of crossover between plastic modelling and railway modelling, so it will hopefully be of interest to people. British Railways Illustrated has more pre-1970s photos this month, including features on WR Britannia's, the LNR D49 Class 4s, Clune Castle, Kenneth Gray's notes from the line side, as well as items covering Kyle of Luckhouse, Stratford upon Avon, and early diesels at Vauxhall. I will freely admit that I'm not quite sure what some of that means, and I'm really sorry, but if you're a railway modeller, hopefully that's really exciting.
And you weren't reading that at all, were you?
I wasn't reading that at all. And in other news, now the weather. And finally, Railway Byline, which features things like industrial narrow gauge railways, branch line scenes, and such forth, which include the final part of Mike Fell's piece on Longton. Nick Deacon has something on Leith North, and there are some other articles on North Woolwich, Toaster, Gleneath, and Silverdale. And my potteries brain seems to think that some of those places may be in the potteries, but who knows? Also, there's a free Modern Rail digital download as well, which will take a look at changing liveries and scenes on the central section of the West Coast main line. And one last thing to mention before you probably all, with relief, go, he's finished finally. War Paint number 151 will print in January, and that is on that British classic, the Andover. So hopefully that will make a lot of people very happy.
Oh, fantastic. Very much so. Who's the author of that one?
Do you know what? I will freely admit that I wasn't told that, and I'm rubbish.
That sounds like an Adrian Balch job.
Gary did tell me who it was the other day, but in the notes that he sent, he didn't, and I'm really apologising. So just like to think, I was saying our guidelines is that kind of quirky British blend. But one of it is that quirky British blend of the gentleman amateur that's kind of just puffs his way through things and hope people don't notice.
Well, you got my interest up with the truck action.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit biased because obviously I edit it, and I don't really build car, truck and motorcycle models. I built a couple, but I find it fascinating. I just love looking at how other genres of modeling can inform your own work. And it's just brilliant. The way that stuff is done is it's different, and it's different on all those three genres. I just think if you've never picked up an issue of it, just try one and see what you think. I mean, it's great. Like all sorts of things. There are so many crossovers that connect us rather than dividers. It's just worth a look.
Very much so. It's the same as our episodes in that if it's not a subject that you're actually keen on as the primary cause, you may pick up a tip or some ideas that you can actually transfer into your own hobby building. And I, for one, looking online, I take it most of these titles are all available online as well as at newsagents?
Yep. You can buy them as digital editions, and you can find out how to do that at guidelinepublications.co.uk.
And there's no tariffs on those?
No, there are. Although it must be said that we are still shipping magazines to the States as efficiently as we can. So if you are a US reader wondering how to get hold of printed copies, please don't worry, they are still available.
Well, I must admit, I am actually going to get a copy of each of those magazines just to have a look through, not for the fact that you're now sponsoring the show. It's just a case of you've piqued my interest, with the exception of MMI, which has something. Rob Riv, some American modeler, I believe, may have a podcast. I'm just busting his chops to actually quote him.
I'm not just saying it because John's here, but MMI is my favourite armour military modelling magazine. It is superb. The production values in it, the photography. Going back to when we spoke to Spencer about how writers write rather than just describe what they're doing compared to their thoughts and feelings on a build. MMI is really, really good. I often pick that up when I see it.
Yeah, I think fair play to the editor, Dave Grummett. He's spent a lot of time polishing and tweaking that magazine to get the best people in there, and it really does look good. And I know that I think AFV modelling puts aircraft modelling to shame many ways, because aircraft modelling is just starting to pick up some of the stuff from AFV modelling, especially in the finishing departments and aftermarket. But yeah, he really makes the most of it. And he's got a really talented team of kind of regular and semi-regular contributors. And he's a very talented historian.
And it's a big magazine. Every time I get it, they're boasting about on the front about this one's got so many odd pages, than before. And it's a fat magazine. There's a lot of stuff in there. And for the price of a British pint, you've got a good few hours of reading there. So buy one and take it to the pub and sit and read it.
Well, I think depending where you are in the UK, it might even be cheaper than a British pint now, especially if you live in the south of England.
It probably is. John.
So yeah, we are really happy to be involved with this podcast. And if you can put it with me every once in a while, wittering my way through that, then all the better. And thank you.
Well, hopefully we can entice you back at least once a month to give us an update of what's actually coming out in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
So that will actually give members time to actually either place an order at the newsagents or go online and actually get a copy of the magazine when it drops. So thank you very much for your sponsorship. It is appreciated, and welcome to the family.
Visit scalemodelpodcast.com, your hub for the best scale modelling pods, because finding great content shouldn't take longer than hunting for lost photo etch. Please support Models for Heroes, as sometimes building a scale model can help rebuild a person. Visit modelsforheroes.org.uk. Welcome to Beyond the Box Art, Benchmates Kit of the Year 2025. And we're joined by the winning company's MD, who has no idea.
Right then, Benchmate, we'll start off this section of the show with the results for the Benchmate Model of the Year competition. In third place, we've got Airfix with their 148th Jaguar. I think that's reasonably a good placing for it. The quality of the kit, I think, is reasonable, but the number of votes it got, speaking of which, we had over 300 votes in total for the whole competition, so not bad. In second place, we've got Revell with their 132nd Gloucester Meteor. Very good option, but the first place kit, I'm a little surprised at the number of votes it got, but it got over 2/3 of the votes, which is the Kotare 132nd BF109K.
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, wow.
Well done, Mo. That's great.
Well done.
Congrats.
Oh, I'll pass that on to the guys. Oh, I can't pass it on to the guys until... Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
You can tell the guy, but yes, that was the reason I messaged you this morning when I got the results in, is to try and get you on for this episode, the recording, because I thought I would really like to give you the result live at the same time as everybody else.
Oh, I've got a little tear coming. Thank you so much to all the Beyond the Box Art Benchmates and to you guys for the awesome job you do. It was really good to meet you at Telford.
Yes, that time seemed to slip by so quickly. I got there Friday afternoon. The next thing I knew, it was Sunday evening. We were packing up. Where did the weekend go?
Yes, it was intense, but amazing. I loved my trip. Oh, well, listen, we're so thrilled about this. I know you guys are doing a fantastic job and you're audience is growing all the time. So we appreciate it very much.
You're very welcome, my friend. There will be a little trophy coming in to post to you in the new year. We just got to get it made first.
It's not a K4, is it?
Stop it.
I've got 700 of those in my spare bedroom. I don't need another one.
But not got a gold-plated one yet, Mark. So
No, that's true.
How many times have you built one, Mark?
6 or 7, and I'm finally getting one that's primed and had some old-fashioned pre-shading done. So I'm hoping to finish that over the holiday season. I'm just still trying to finish the PR Spitfire that I took to Telford, which seems to be moving backwards, not forwards, but it will get there.
Okay. Have you got the canopy moulding sorted yet, or is that still a work in progress?
No, that's all good. So they should be shipping as people hear this podcast.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, and another little piece of news that you dropped on socials the other day, the Spitfire 5B is in production.
Hallelujah. Once again, all I have to put on sackcloth and ashes and apologize for the delay. Everything's go. There's some thousands being made in China right now. They're almost finished production. They'll be putting all the package together with the decals and the instructions. So it's unusual and a little bit of a strain to have 2 kits shipping at almost exactly the same time, but we have to get them out. And so once again, hopefully everybody will appreciate that we've tried to make the 5B as good as it can possibly be instead of putting it out 2 months ago with some parts that we weren't proud of. So people have been extremely kind and very few people have wanted a refund, although they are, of course, available anytime. Yeah, thanks for asking.
No problem. And is there any point in asking or even trying to tease out of you, is there any movement for a later version Mark 5B?
I think Richard has a secret list of every Spitfire variant ever manufactured. Interestingly, I don't know if he didn't think I wouldn't want to do the PRs, but the PR Spitfire line, I believe, was my idea. That was one of those things that came out of some beers, and I believe it was my idea. But Richard's a Spitfireaholic, and he would do Spitfires till the cows come home, as we say here. So I think you can say, yes, there are plans. Whether there's drawings, whether there's metal, whether there's production is to be revealed.
Okay, fair enough.
Roll on the Mark 14. That's all I can say.
Now, we've had this conversation, and yes, but there's nothing happening on Griffin Spitfires at the moment. I can promise you that. But it will.
Darn it.
Which is ironic because I've just changed jobs as this actually drops, and the airfield I'm going to actually has a proliferation of Spits. So instead of just a 5B, I now need a 12, I need a Spit 9 LF and HF, and I also need a Spit 14. Accelerate the production a little bit, be rather than appreciated.
You'll always sell Spitfires, Mark.
Oh dear. So obviously the weekend of Telford, and also with Scale, was it Scale ACT that you actually dropped the news of the Thunderbolts?
Yes, it was, I think in retrospect, perhaps, well, it was an exhausting but rewarding thing to get our tiny group of people at 2 places at the same time on opposite sides of the world. We probably haven't marketed the hell out of that yet, but yeah, it was interesting at Telford. It was exactly as I thought. I put the 109 banner up and people were walking past going, oh yeah, P47. And then somebody looked around and went, that's not a P47. And then the buzz sort of spread from there that we'd announced 2 things in the same weekend. And so I actually took 3D printed fuselage halves of the one I need to our IPMS meeting last night. So that I'm going to put together about 4 fuselages, and there's a couple of very influential people I'm going to send them to. We've got time to get the shape absolutely right. And because we don't put engines in, although Radu has sneaked in a sort of vestigial engine into this one that just sort of forms part of the nose molding, which you'll see on the pictures of the cab when it comes out, or of the 3D parts. So, but I'm already getting messages from people who want to, know the dimensions to fit aftermarket engines. So those people will have their fill. So we've got time to take feedback and get this absolutely right. The CAD is finished, pending review. So I think we've got about an 8-week period to get feedback and then press the button on the mold making. The P47 is not as developed. We're about 3 months into that design, but Jason, who we got back from industry, he used to be a wing up wings designer. He's just charging at 100 miles an hour on that model. It's the CAD's looking amazing. And again, we've got really interested parties around the world saying, are you sure you're going to get this right? Do you know about this? I've got this drawing. And we're going, send us everything, because we don't want a priceless piece of information to arrive after we're putting the plastic in the box. You know how it goes.
What brought the P47 on? What was the thought behind that one?
We've got to try and satisfy an audience around the world, and we've looked initially very Spitfire centric. We were a bit of a one-trick pony for a while, and that's very British and Commonwealth. And then the Luftwaffe stuff usually is a staple. You know, every model company does a Messerschmitt and a Spitfire to start with. We looked at the P51, but, you know, there's P51s coming out from various companies now. And much as I love the P51 and New Zealand flew them, it looked like just a bit too crowded of a market. And then when you look around the World War II fighter scene, because 32nd scale, in my opinion, you know, suits fighters just right, then the P47 comes up the list, and then you go, okay, well, there's an RAF component to it. And then the color schemes, just the color schemes. And we're almost picking models now for their weathering potential. You know how weathering has become such a cool thing and everybody's learning, and even old dinosaurs like me are learning. So when you look at weathered P47 in the South Pacific or in Europe, especially olive drab and neutral gray, and then the RAF ones in the Southeast Asia, the weathering potential is massive. So it's almost like you're picking the airplanes that weather most interestingly to do. It's not quite as simple as that, but anyway, there are other suggestions on the table. There's at least one other project in development right now, which I can't say anything about, but any suggestions welcome. And as you guys know, I just say yes to everything, so nobody knows exactly what we're doing.
Mark, can I ask, have you discovered any, well, so far in the sort of early stages of Thunderbolt stuff, have you found any stories yet to tell like you've done with other kits?
Do you mean about pilots or about the design?
Yeah, pilots and stories, because your kits do tend to weave that into them, don't they?
I'm going to be completely honest and say nothing's jumping out at the moment. I'm reading P47 stuff, well, rereading P47 stuff. Some names are coming to the top of the list. It's hard to know as a manufacturer. Do you go with the aces like Zemke, other well-known American figures, Zabreski, or do you find a moving story like our box art of the 109K? He's a guy that maybe, you know, nobody had ever really heard of. And do we find a really interesting aeroplane flown by a pilot that is not well known and then tell his story? So any suggestions welcome. The open slather.
Yeah.
Okay, John, have you got a question?
Only a couple of things, actually, which is to say one of the things, Mark, is that in the current issue of Scale Aircraft Modelling, which I think is coming out this Thursday, we've actually got a build of your 109K4 in there.
Oh, cool.
So that should maybe pull in a few more pre-Christmas sales. People wondering what to buy.
Great, thank you.
Can I put a request in for Neil Kirby's P47, please? The Pacific Ace.
Neil Kirby.
It's got a nice white tail. He's relatively unknown, but he was quite important. I think he was the first P47 Pacific Ace.
Okay.
Ooh, good shout.
Okay. I was just about to start reading one of the books on that campaign. So, yep. Okay. Duly noted, John.
Thank you.
Okay, Nevs, have you got a question?
John has just stolen my thought, not about Neil Kirby, but I know that the Razorback is the first variant. Have you got a timeline for when you're thinking of doing the bubble top?
I think it'll be, I theoretically haven't announced the bubble top, but everybody knows you're going to do one. I think it'll be quite quick. I don't think it'll be, you know, there are other companies that we won't name who make provision for a second variant in their kit, and then 10 years later, the second variant still hasn't come out. We won't be like that, partly because we can't afford to be like that. We need to maximize the mold. One of the things that Jason's working on really hard is how can we, it's not really a money thing, it's a how good is the build. We want to see if we can make the fuselage not put together, because that sounds simplistic, but really easy to put together without seam lines to fix. And then the option is, can we actually produce those fuselage parts that allow a Razorback and a bubble top without too much other mucking about with the fuselage? So he's got a really interesting technical brief from me. You've heard me rant on about surface detail. So we're going to work with our Chinese molding partners to see if we could do something new on the surface detail. But Jason is also tasked with making the fuselage multifunctional, put it that way. in a way that doesn't end up, I mean, we can all name kits where the company tried to do too much and then you end up with it.
I was going to say, I think, did somebody do that in 48th at some point with a couple of different variants? So the D and the M, I think it might have been.
Oh, I was thinking other aircraft, but I'm not going to mention any company names. I don't want to fall into that trap. But the thing is, the molding is so accurate right now. So I've got the guys to buy, the designers to buy a couple of Bandai kits, the Gundam or Gunpla, some variants of that. You know, everybody's telling us how Bandai just pressed together. They look as if they've been molded amazingly well. There is no reason why we can't match that. So we should be able to do a multi-component fuselage that offers the options of Razorback and bubble top with minimal seam cleanup, as opposed to bits going in here and bits going in here, not quite fitting, needing seams, needing rescrewing.
Wouldn't that sort of go off whatever the panel lines are available for you to work with?
Exactly. And you just look at the design of the real airplane and you try to copy what they did. So, yeah, that's Jason, I think, is the right guy because he's been doing engineering CAD for a metal steel engineering firm, steel and aluminium engineering firm for 5 years. So he's come back with some really interesting ideas that he maybe wouldn't have developed if he'd stayed in the modeling CAD field.
Okay. I mean, I know we've touched mainly on the P-47, but out of Telford, the one thing that really got me excited was the E4, the BF-109 E4.
Oh, good. Something for everyone.
Because the Emile is my favourite series. You know, it's not the underdog because none of them are really underdogs, but it's
the most rugged looking one, isn't it?
It's the most German looking one. Have you got any ideas of particular aircraft you want to include in the box? Obviously, you've got plenty of Battle of Britain potential.
So I have been, the wing leader box from Mark Postlethwaite and crew. I've been going through there's 4 on the 109 from the Battle of Britain. There are just so many schemes. And from a business point of view, the idea that we could be, putting out unit markings or theatre markings or yellow noses, the boxings will keep coming. As I often say, my kids will make more money from Kotare than I will as, the editions come out over the next 20, 30 years. So I'm probably going to copy an idea that I think was originally done by FX, which is to be able to fully feature the box art without having to try to hide the swastika. So there was that unit. It's just gone out of my head. Forgive me, please, all you Luftwaffe scholars who had a bit of a protest action against discrimination against Jewish people. And so they took the swastika off the tails of their 109s for about 4 to 6 weeks. Problem is, I think it was just after the Battle of Britain, but that may not matter too much. So then you could feature a fully envisaged 109E and not have to leave a blank space where the swastika should go. So I'm just toying with that idea. And then people, Helmut Wick, so famous, want an option that doesn't require airbrush mottling. So one of the fairly early ones with the splinter camouflage, the high demarcation line. To some people, those are the classic Battle of Britain 109, so mainly blue, light blue fuselage. So I think one of the options needs to be easy to mask and paint, and maybe even brush paint for those modelers who are brush painting, and then try to find something really colorful that people haven't seen too much of. So again, you've got 2 hats, you've got your honoring more than 2 hats. Anyway, multiple tasks. How do you do something saleable, something doable in decals, something paintable, something new, something old, something blue? You know how it goes. So still to be decided, and suggestions welcome.
Would you include the bits for E7? Because it's not much difference. It's just the spinner and the air filters.
So yes, but maybe not in the first boxing. So again, how do we sell kits? I think the E7 deserves a desert boxing. So they'll come, but not quite sure what will be in the first box. It'll probably be focused on Battle of Britain machines.
What you'll find is that paint schemes, and obviously you've got the yellow nose ones, which are iconic, even ones that are plain a fuselage, black spinner, yellow nose, black spinner. It varies not even just within the same Jagdgeschwader. It varies within the squadron, the Staffel as well. So for instance, I'm trying to recreate 9th Staffel of JG26, which is probably the most famous. German unit because there's so many aces, Adolf Gallat and some of the others. And even within the same squadron, you've got the plainer nose ones, you've got the full yellow nose, you've got yellow nose black spinner. So there's plenty of options there.
Exactly. I think the aftermarket decal companies, well, they've already done it. There's hundreds of decals for the 109E. So again, great potential. So yeah, if you have a favorite, fire it in and I'll see what we can do. No promises.
Mark, I don't know much about Messerschmitts at all. I certainly don't know anything about Battle of Britain Messerschmitts or who slew them and squadrons or anything. Do you have to take into consideration that box art to make someone like me go, that looks cool, I want to buy it?
Absolutely. Every company does, whether it's, breakfast cereal or model airplanes. We got some lovely feedback on the PR Type A box art. I think Daryl's created a really outstandingly beautiful piece of art, and people are saying they're going to buy it just to get that piece of art. They're going to pre-order it to get the print of that art. I think Daryl's an awesome artist. I've loved everything. Sometimes though, there's, like any artist, there's one or two that have just a touch of magic, and that's definitely got it. I just picked up the print run of boxes yesterday and put the first one together, and it was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. Which is, that's really big-headed to say, but it is. At the club last night, everywhere was going, oh, that's amazing. So yes, we need to do something that will grab you. So what would grab you?
I think colours, and I would probably...
Action-packed.
Yeah, and I would look at, first of all, because obviously I airbrush. So I would go, right, modelling, how am I going to do that? Is that something I've done before? Yeah, I'll have a go at that. And I need to be able to tell that by just picking up the box, because let's face it, when we go to a show or a shop, there's 500 different models saying, buy me. From your point of view, you want me to go, yeah, you want my one, you don't want that one, you want this one.
Yeah. Okay.
The box art grabs me, I'll be honest with you. That's what always gets me straight away, the box art.
But then also, Kotare's reputation now that's building, of building quality kits, great instructions, and a little slice of it for me. I'm so into, I love dioramas and stories, and that's why I asked about, I like to have a story and go, right, who's this fella? Let's find out about this. I like to learn. Yeah, I like to learn something, because that's part of that's that Apple experience, isn't it, that we all talk about. I want you, when I open the kit, I want to sort of go on a bit of a journey, a bit of a learning journey as well. And ideally learn something that I don't know anything about.
Okay. I hope you'll find that all our products do that to some extent. The PR issue, we found out some stuff that nobody seemed to know. We'll put that in the instructions. The pilots are detailed. Their careers are detailed in reasonable completeness. So, yeah, I like your thinking. And indeed, Telford was amazing to bring home the point that just walking down the Jadlam one whole wall of the centre is Jadlam with hundreds of kits, and it's overwhelming. So trying to do something that grabs your attention as you walk past is quite the trick. So, but we'll try.
Okay, have you got any update or any news on the Halifax project?
Yes. So at Telford, we had the first face-to-face meeting of the Project Halifax members. So we had a breakfast on the Sunday morning. That was just a beautiful thing, meeting these people, shaking their hands, saying thank you. So we had a 1 hour meeting. Darren was on a telephone link, but it worked pretty well. And the recording of that is probably not usable, so I might get a transcript for those who didn't go. We've been really fortunate. We've been sent a massive amount of data. I can't really say who from, but a very kind organisation has sent us a huge amount of data, including almost all the necessary World War II handy page plans. I did a walk around of the one at Hendon and also walked through and around the one at Yorkshire at Elvington. Darren's got the fuselage all laid out now. Excuse me. He's starting on the wings. Yesterday we were just discussing, do we need separate flaps and ailerons? The answer is yes. There's quite a few photos of Halifaxes with the flaps deployed on the ground as opposed to, say, a Spitfire. And then we're just debating how we can do the nose architecture. So within the Halifax project group, just to explain, and I forget who of you is on it, but collaborative effort. So it's not me saying this will be in the kit. It's me saying, what would you like in the kit? What's technically possible? And then just what's going to be financially possible. And that's not really a problem at the moment. So we're just working out whether we need to do a whole different nose for the Mark Ways and the specials, because they fitted the Perspex nose from that was the standard on the Mark III to quite a number of Mark IIs, as I'm sure you guys will know. So Darren feels like we're going to need to break it at the actual airplane nose joint, which is just behind the cockpit ahead of the wing root. And then we're back into that. Can we do that in such a way that it's not going to leave an awkward seam that then ruins a bunch of the delicate detail? So that's not a final decision by any means. And as Darren and I were discussing yesterday, he and I debate the options. Then I take it to the group via our various media of communication, and we get people's opinions. So interestingly, at the breakfast, we got a majority of, I'm going to say 39-1, that people want only interior detail you can see. They don't want to build a compartment that is not visible from the outside. And while that was just the 40 people at the breakfast, it probably represents the opinion of the whole group, but I'll go to the whole group and just confirm that. So this is how that project's working. It's like, I've got an idea how it's going to be, but it's already changed about 5 times. We're finding we can do more versions, especially something like the Coastal Command one, because that gives a whole new color scheme to add. And people are saying quite strongly they would not like that and like this. And so it's really a lovely process. So I'm not trying to act as a salesman. I'm just saying it was a massive risk for me to start this thing in this way. But I'm saying it's paying off, not financially yet, but it's paying off in terms of really passionate people getting involved, debating with each other, and then out of it will hopefully come an amazing kit set.
Okay, you mentioned the Coastal Command scheme. Does that actually have an influence on the type of plastic or the colour of plastic that you use for the kit? As in, if you were to use a standard dark grey, is that going to be a pain for someone who's of moderate modelling skills to actually get a decent colour white to actually colour the scheme?
Well, we're actually going to have robots that are just going to spray all the schemes for you. So you'll just order those colour scheme you want. So no, I don't think so. Not with the modern coverage of paints. So Matchbox, they went with the different plastics in the same package. As I'm thinking about that as a manufacturer, that must have been a manufacturing nightmare to make sure all the sprues were the colour that the designer intended, all within a kit.
I know as a kid I loved them.
Yeah, I know. Well, but on that topic, a second-hand shop in Auckland has just come into a collection, unfortunately, a deceased estate collection of 900 Matchbox kits, including some really rare ones. If you're anybody's...
It's quite surprising how many they actually did, isn't it?
Yes. So there's a lot of duplicates in there, obviously, but Constellation Hobbies, if you want to jump on and have a look, he's a nice guy. So no, I don't think it'll affect plastic color choice because we'll probably go with our standard mid-grey, but good question. Need to think about it.
It does actually raise a point, Rum, you going back to the conversation about Gundam and Bandai, because they're actually, in some of their kits, they have multicolours on the same sprue.
I know. How do they do that? Well, I said in an email to somebody yesterday, we're like David Bowie was a real musical hero of mine, and he had no shame about saying he was a magpie or a thief. He would just steal ideas and lyrics, and he would make a song out of a headline or whatever. And so as a model company, we are buying all the products of all the state-of-the-art manufacturers. We're looking at the good ideas. We're stealing what looks like it's going to work. We're trying to innovate ourselves. Other people seem to be looking at us, probably stealing some of our ideas. And that's how the industry works.
I bet you're struggling buying 148 scale Halifaxes. Didn't there used to just be one?
Yes.
And that was potluck if you could get that one to fit.
Whoever, I don't know the gentleman who was behind FM, but gosh, he deserves a medal. But because I think he was largely working on his own. And knowing the effort it's taking us to create a 48 scale Halifax, the fact that he did it, 28 years ago is incredible, really. If I ever see one, I'll buy it just for the historical value. But yes.
I have seen a couple for sale now and again, and they do tend to get quite a few, quite high prices.
Yeah, that may change when ours hits the market.
One side of the fuselage is 132, the other side is 148. That your chance.
John, quick question for you. As a professional model builder, in inverted commas, is there anything that you would like to see in the Halifax box that we've actually discussed so far that would make it easier for your job?
No, because I think my job is to just build models, write about it, and take what you're given and make the best of it, really. I've built enough wingnut biplanes to really appreciate good engineering on a kit, and and Tamiya kits as well. And I've also built enough, well, funnily enough, Fondery miniatures kits to equally appreciate good engineering on a kit as well when it's not there. Mark, are you planning on doing things like the civilian, the passenger, the Lancastrian, things like that?
Funnily enough, at our club last night, a local modeler is 3D printing Lancastrian models, which is obviously based on the FX Lancaster. And he's going to add the jet engines for that Lancaster that flew with underslung jets. So I've been looking, I've got this book right in front of me right here from Key Publishing. I can recommend this. And there's some amazing civilian schemes. They're mainly based on the Mark III, though.
Okay.
So I think that's where the options will become more obvious. We've already got at least 6 significant variations on the Mark II. So there'll probably come a limit, not necessarily financially, because putting in an H2S blister is not that expensive, but there'll come a limit to what can fit in an instruction booklet. And I'm famous for my verbose instruction booklets already after the Messerschmitt. So we'll have to be a little bit careful there.
So the plan is to start with the Mark II, is it, and its variations?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is not financially sensible, but that's the one that really is the ugly duckling Halifax, the Mark.
Oh, I don't know. It's the coolest looking one, though, isn't it? I mean, those triangular tail fins, the Merlins, the whole. It just looks like a proper early war British 4-engine bomber.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally kind of still got that real late 30s look to it, which is what makes it so sort of fantastic.
Almost Art Deco.
It's a bit steampunk. Yeah. So, John, one of the things that came out of the breakfast that might be of interest to you is a really strong request to supply paint masks for the transparencies, which I think we all agree would make the build easier.
Good idea.
And we were talking about the fact that it's really hard to win a major competition with a bomber kit because there's so many transparencies, and it's so easy to make mistakes. So, for instance, the suggestion has been made that the pilot's canopy be molded in such a way that it includes the fuselage panels around. So you've got a clear part that fits into the fuselage, and you don't have to try and fit the canopy to a plastic fuselage. So we're going to play with that idea. So we've already had 2 or 3 companies contact us about masks. So I think that's going to be a yes. There will be transparency masks in the kit.
And I guess, could I mention then maybe some way of, I don't know whether maybe a printed mask in the instructions to do wavy camouflage demarcation line that a lot of Halifaxes had? Because they are really hard to do masking to get that undulation.
I agree. Totally agree.
Along the wing or the fuselage, because I absolutely know nothing about the Halifax.
It's like the high demarcation of the dark earth and dark green.
Yeah, fuselage.
Quite a lot of them have just have a wavy. You'd think the RAF had better things to do in the early 1940s, but apparently no. That was one of the things that they feature. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's been exercising my mind, not just from that fuselage demarcation, but also just the wing standard camouflage demarcation. In fact, this is the beauty of this Project Halifax. So I actually put a post out on our private Facebook group saying, would anybody like to work on this for us? We're going to need the profile artist to have drawings to work from for the camouflage pattern. They tried an A and B pattern, but it sort of fizzled out very quickly. But then again, you've got all the variation of, a guy standing on a wing with an airbrush deciding whether the curve is going to be here or there. So a couple of guys are going to set up a little spreadsheet with pictures of all the different camouflage pictures for us. It's not me trying to save money. We can have people do that. But it's nice when somebody who's signed up to the project goes, yeah, I'm a graphic designer. I could spend an hour on that. So we're trying to make sure lots of people get a chance to be involved. So one of the ideas is that we just on the website produce a printable mask that you can either cut out if you do your own homemade masks, or even just simple paper. Just you cut it out on paper, wet it, lay it down on the plastic, let it dry, use it as a mask. There's various ways of doing it. So yes, that's definitely exercising our mind, John.
What's your thoughts on 3D parts, 3D printed parts? Would that something you would ever include in the future, in future kits?
Yes, well, we do already. All the pre-orders come so far for the Spitfire and the Messerschmitt with a set of 3D printed exhausts. done by my friend Craig Sargent, whose brand is Aviation and Scale. And he's just creating a set of gun barrels for the Mark 5B as an option. He's created a pilot store for the Spitfire, and we're working on a variety of other things. So one of the ideas that came out of the Halifax breakfast was some of the things that only a few people want. For instance, a cutaway of the flight engineers department or compartment or something like that. Or if you looked at certainly bombs, nobody likes gluing bomb halves together and remedying the seams, do they? Does anybody actually enjoy
Not
that?
really, no.
So we're going to try and make sure everything is in the kit in plastic, and then there'll be add-ons for things that are better done in 3D. So gun barrels will be, for instance, there. Craig's done some gun barrels for the 109, which are significantly better than you can do in injection molded plastic. So yes, one of the things that's still nagging away at me about 3D printing is how durable is this resin material? Is it going to start disintegrating in 7 or 8 years' time? Whether it's painted or not painted, is it going to degrade? And so I always want to make sure that we're producing a kit that is absolutely 100% buildable in styrene, but has 3D options for parts that are better done in 3D. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
It does, but why would somebody think that it would degrade anyway? I mean, is there something in the makeup of the material that does eventually degrade or make it lose its shape or whatever, it could become brittle or whatever, or more brittle?
There's some fairly well, I'm going to say rumored or publicized instances of older style resin kits that were poured into a mold and of parts bending over time, like heavy parts like wings, parts developing a powdery surface on them as the surface maybe oxidizes. But polystyrene degrades as well, right? So you get a 50 or 60-year-old frog kit out and the plastic will be more brittle than it was made. It's not indestructible. But we're talking about guys who are doing, if you're supplying the STL files and people are printing these at home, we've got no idea how clean their machine is, how well they clean and cure, whether they're using cheap resin or good resin. People seem to think 3D printing is a thing. In fact, it's a million different things depending on what guys are doing in their model rooms or garages. So obviously we can control the quality of stuff that we produce, but nobody's actually, because I'm a vet, is there a double-blind placebo-controlled trial on the durability of 3D printed resin parts? No, there isn't. So we're all conducting a big experiment with our models right now. Come back in 10 years and see how it went. I'm probably a little bit of a doomsayer, but as a business owner, you've got to think of the risks. What if we, like Eduard going with their hybrid kits where a lot of parts are only 3D printed, and God knows they know all about 3D printing. What if the interior of your 109 from Eduard disintegrates in 10 years' time? Eduard won't necessarily care because they sold you the kit 10 years ago, but I'm probably going a bit wild with my imagination right now. I'll stop.
Well, no, because to them it's an unknown, isn't it? It's an unknown to everybody. You pay your money, you take your chance.
You say that, Eduard themselves are actually, for some of their undercarriage, the A10 springs to mind, are actually putting in brass dowels and actually putting basically 3D resin components onto those legs. So they're not actually having just solid resin legs now.
Yeah.
Because some of the manufacturers up here, I know I've heard of some kits where you've actually got the aircraft, you got it finished, etc. Then you come back a couple of weeks later and the gear's actually splayed already. It was a resin kit. I won't go any further with the manufacturer, etc. But they corrected it and actually sent out replacement parts. But it was a warm summer, and when the kit was released, everyone built it. And then all of a sudden, people started saying, my gear's bowing.
Problem with that is, Brown, is that when they've done undercarriage legs, they're solid. So the resin's not cured in the centre. So if you actually leave a hole in it and make it into 2 parts, and it's actually, when it cures, it's cured from the inside. So when you're doing a solid resin undercarriage, then you've got the weight on it, because it's not cured in the centre, it will bore, it will flex.
Well, Chris from Fishcop had the same issue with his early Merlin engines he did in 32nd for the Kotare Spit, in that it was a solid block. And then he started to have people comment him and say, we've got an issue in that part of the wall of the engine is melting. It's where the uncured resin inside basically was eating from the inside out. And he replaced those, obviously free gratis, etc. But it's just a case of there's lots of things suddenly coming out after about a year or so from this technology really hitting the main market. So as Mark says, it's going to be an interesting development time to see how things actually progress.
Yeah, I have actually had it happen on a figure I had once. I was painting for somebody and I was doing a bit of trimming and I noticed it. I thought, what's going on here? It's actually tacky, and it was oozing out of itself. In the end, I just chopped it in half to see what was going on, and it was all completely liquidized inside it. I was quite surprised. I was amazed, really.
So it's a quality control issue. Yeah.
Because I know nothing about 3D printing. I didn't know that's how they kind of work. I don't know you'd stop that.
Yeah, if you're doing a figure or an engine, you would basically have it hollow on the inside with a bit of a hole in it. So when it goes into the curing, it washes it in the IPA, it'll set it on. So that gives you the strength.
I think Mark down in New Zealand also raises an interesting point about if you're supplying STL files for people to print at home and you don't know what their kit's like, their printing equipment is like, do you run the risk of being damned by their printing equipment? You supply the STL file, somebody bangs it out on some ropey old 3D printer and goes, oh, this isn't very good. And the next thing that's happening is that they're criticizing you, and it's the classic workman blaming his tools sort of situation, which has got to be an interesting one if you're a kit maker, because all of a sudden you have surrendered control over what the final product's like in a wish to kind of give people more variety. And that must be a bit of a worry, I suppose.
Well, it's the same that Revell's actually come out with the Meteor. There's a vent on the side of the intake, which, because of the way that the tooling works, they couldn't get accurate 100%. So when they were on the last episode, they said there's an STL file available for free, so you can print the vents yourself to get the correct shape. But as you say, it's down to the quality of the equipment you've actually got. It's down to the cleanliness, etc., etc. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that develops. But also, whilst we were going down that track, a suggestion from Mark is if he could actually include or have a downloadable site on his website, or downloadable area on his website, where you could actually put the wavy demarcation for people that have actually got the vinyl cutters at home, which are probably a lot more prolific than the 3D printers. So you could actually do your color scheme on a printer.
Silhouette.
No, I think that's a given, I think.
Okay. So going back to the Halifax for a second, Mark, you said on the last time you were on, there's going to be 6 schemes in the box. Have you actually finalised any of those 6 yet?
So I think the front runner at the moment is the Ruhr Express that had that cartoon along the left lower fuselage under the canopy. Unfortunately, that aircraft was shot down, so there was no chance to preserve it. But there's lots of close-up photos of that art. And now I'm doing this from memory, don't quote me. I think that was from an Australian squadron. So we've got lots of Australians wanting one of their squadrons. Canadians obviously pushing Canadian squadrons. We've got a Coastal Command, lots of people wanting a glider tug or the one that dropped the SOE team that killed assassinated Hydrek. There's a lot of comment wanting that aircraft, which is fairly nondescript. It didn't have any big nose out or anything like that. So there's a sort of, it's almost like favourites for a horse race. We've got a front runner and then some ones coming up behind. Some people have sent details of their grandfather's one or their great uncle's aircraft, but out of that has to come some photos or something to tell us exactly what it looked like. Although, as people know from the Messerschmitt, I'm not totally tied to having documentary evidence. We can put markings in and people can make it look how they want, but the more evidence we have, the better.
Okay. Now, sticking with markings for a second, is Sven from One Man Army in Belgium?
Yes, I met Sven at Telford, a lovely man.
Very much so. Have you reached out to him to actually look at putting masks of his quality into the box, or to actually supply so you can actually he can launch a deco range at the same time, or a paint mask range at the same time as you actually launch the kit?
We had a quick chat at Telford, but as you know, all chats at Telford were quick pretty much. And we've got a brief email dialogue going on, so we're definitely in communication.
Okay.
So funnily enough, at the club last night, one of our very good modelers, about 8 years ago, he did his first, I think it was a Luftwaffe aircraft with paint masks. And he said, I'm never using a decal ever again. And then he sort of came hard up against the lack of masks for 48 scale and 72nd scale stenciling and other things. And then he was building our Messerschmitt last night, and I said, "Oh, so you painted all the dials on the cockpit instruments, did you?" And he looked a little bit sheepish. No, I used the decals for those. So there's going to be still a place for decals. And we may well always provide all of the stenciling as decals for those that prefer that and don't want to try masking. As we get closer to trying to make some money out of this project, which is a year or two away yet, we may see that there's budget to put in a set of masks. And unless I have another better option, it'd be Sven that I'd be talking to.
Yeah. The quality he's actually getting from his masks, especially for the stenciling, even in 48, is just absolutely sublime.
I don't know how, it looks like alchemy to me. I don't know how he does it.
Do you know, of all the things for modelling, the one thing that I could never figure out how they did, do you remember them exhausts that Moskit used to make out of metal?
They were incredible.
They were absolutely amazing. And you didn't even have to paint them. They just looked perfect. They were absolutely amazing. I don't even get them anymore, can you? Are they still going?
No, and apparently he was using some reasonably interesting Russian military technology on the evenings and weekends to create those. So I've heard that rumor. I don't know if it's true.
Okay, time's obviously pressing on, and I know you've got to get to work very shortly, Mark. But before you go, is there anything else you can tease our Benchmates with for the new year?
There's one of the cool things about building a portfolio of subjects is exploring the special editions that are going to be possible. So the PR Spitfire line is already, the first one's already proven to be a success. So we're going to be continuing that. I've said one a year. That's no secret. But then as the hurricane comes to fruition, which is making rapid progress in China right now, there's the opportunity for some special boxings there. So a couple around people and a couple around machines, different variations of the early hurricane. They're a lot more complicated. They're a lot more complicated than most people get. So there's some stuff coming up in that genre.
Okay, you mentioned the hurricane there. On one of your chats with the geeks, you were talking about looking at samples of machinery or what could be produced for the fabric for the hurricane skin. Has that trial actually taken part yet, or is that still work in progress?
No, our partner in China has just gone ahead at an amazing rate. I think they're really loving the challenge. So I honestly do not know when the first test shots are arriving, but it's not a long way off. And I just can't wait to open the box of the test shots and see what they've achieved. They have been having extremely high-level conversations with Richard and Darren about that surface detail. All I can do at the moment is cross my fingers and hope, but I have a lot of confidence.
Fantastic. Okay, well, with that, thank you very much for your time, Mark. Congratulations once again on being the first winner of the Kit of the Year. We will get the trophy to you. So please pass on our congratulations to the rest of the team, and Happy New Year to you.
Same to you guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat and model on.
Fantastic. And apologies for the subterfuge on getting you on, but I think you understand now why.
No problem at all.
Okay, my friend. Take care.
Yeah, Mark.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah. Same to everyone.
Fishkop Models, elevating scale modeling to an art form. Experience highly detailed 3D printed upgrade parts that bring true authenticity to your builds. Creators of the acclaimed Rolls-Royce Merlin engine set for both the Kotare Spitfire and the Dambusters set for the Border Models Avro Lancaster. For bespoke design and printing, our service is as precise as it is personal, all at a reasonable price. Please take a look at our products on www.fishkopcompany.de. Shipping is available for all of our products worldwide.
Sorry, Benchmates, but it's the Stash Inflation Report time again, where every announcement is a test of your willpower, and failure is practically guaranteed.
Right then, welcome to the first Stash Inflation Report for 2026. And deep breath, aviation fans, because if your stash was feeling comfortable after the holidays, that's about to change. Special Hobby have announced a 172nd de Havilland DH-94 Moth Miner. The Moth Miner was conceived in the late 1930s as an affordable private aircraft. Simple, economical, and designed to get everyday pilots into the air. The coupe variant, with its enclosed cockpit, reflected a growing shift towards comfort and practicality just before the Second World War changed everything. Special Hobby's 172nd release captures that pre-war optimism beautifully, perfect for civil aviation fans, interwar displays, or as a calm counterpoint to all the grey and green combat aircraft on your bench. Special Hobby have announced the 172nd Mirage 3C, titled the Southern Hemisphere Fighters. Few aircraft screen Cold War elegance like the Mirage 3C. Originally designed as a high-altitude interceptor, the Mirage became a global export success. This boxing highlights service in the South African and Argentine air forces, the type adapted to vastly different climates, doctrines and geopolitical realities. From South African borders to South Atlantic tensions, this release offers striking markings and a reminder that Cold War aviation wasn't confined to Europe and North America. Border Model have updated us on the 135th Boeing B-17F Flying Fortress they announced a couple of years ago, and it's been a long time coming. Border Model's 135th B-17F was teased a few years ago, but has now moved into visible CAD development. The aircraft represents the height of the daylight bombing campaign over Europe, flying deep into heavily defended airspace long before escorts could accompany them all the way. At 1/35th scale, this isn't just a model, it's a centerpiece. Interior detail, crew stations, diorama potentials going off the scale, and it's going to be absolutely immense. Clear some shelf space or start building the extension to make room for this beauty. Zimmy Model are continuing their program of reissuing former Kitty Hawk kits, with the MH-60R Seahawk now announced. The Romeo is one of the most advanced maritime helicopters in service today, combining anti-submarine warfare, attack and surveillance into a single airframe. Operated by navies worldwide, this aircraft represents modern multi-role flexibility, and it's great to see these subjects returning to availability rather than vanishing into the aftermarket wilderness and eBay inflation heaven. Mung have announced a 148th update for their F4E Phantom II. Few aircraft have had lives as long or as adaptable as the Phantom. Mung's update of their 148th F4E tooling to represent the Hellenic Air Force AUP program reflects how nations extended the Phantom well into the 21st century. With modern avionics, new weapons capabilities and revised cockpits, these aircraft bridge the analog to digital transition era. A perfect subject for modelers who love what happens next in aviation history and gives you the ability to build out of the box what Costas built for the Best in Show at Telford in 2025. Armour Hobby are looking ahead to 2026 with a few new releases. Armour Hobby have announced a newer release for 2026 in the shape of a 148th Curtiss H-75A/P-36, the often overlooked predecessor to the P-40. Underrated, agile, and widely exported, the H-75 saw combat with multiple air forces early in the Second World War. Alongside that, Armour are upgrading their 172nd Hurricane 1 and Yak 1, reissuing them in the deluxe range, with new decals, 3D printed parts, and undercarriage alignment jigs. Thoughtful engineering meets historical staples. And speaking of which, Kotare have announced a Spitfire 1A late for 2026. Because of course there's another Spitfire, Kotare's upcoming Spitfire 1A late focuses squarely on the Battle of Britain period, when the aircraft became a symbol as much as a weapon. Expect forensic accuracy, correct detail variations, and markings that reflect the frantic summer and autumn of 1940. You already know that this will be a benchmark. Now, into special operations territory. ICM have announced a 148th MH-6J Littlebird. Now this aircraft is synonymous with covert insertion, rooftop landings and night operations from Panama to Mogadishu, beyond. Compact, fast and brutally effective, it's an aircraft built entirely around mission execution. ICM's 148th announcement fills a long-standing gap for modern SOF aviation fans. And because modelling gods enjoy irony, Zimmy Models have announced a 135th MH-6J Night Stalker. For years, we had no decent little birds. Now we have two, in different scales, arriving almost simultaneously. And honestly, that's a problem we're happy to have. Mini Wings have announced a 144th Armstrong Whitworth Meteor NR-14. The Meteor was one of the ultimate night fighter developments of Britain's first operational jet fighter. With its lengthened nose housing, advanced radar and a stretched fuselage, the NR-14 represents the RAF adapting jet technology to Cold War realities, interception, all-weather capability, and round-the-clock defence. In 1/144th scale, this is ideal for collectors or those wanting to chart the rapid evolution from wartime piston fighters to post-war jets. In the box, you get 3 marking options, with an 85 Squadron machine from 1958, a Air Navigation School machine from 1960s, and something a little different. Foxtrot Zulu Alpha Bravo Mike was an NF-14 operated by the CEV, or the Flight Test Centre for the French Air Force, and was still in operation in 1979. Obviously, the French believe in getting value for money, and the aircraft was a superb platform for test work. So that's the Aviation Stash Inflation Report, from interwar elegance to night stalking, special operations, and everything in between. Wallets lighter, benches busier, and shelves under threat. Now over to Nevs for the nauticals.
Right then, shipmate, steady as she goes. If you thought your stash was under control, I regret to inform you that it very much isn't. First up, Bunker Studio are preparing to release what can only be described as a small naval uprising in 3D printed upgrade for Imperial Japanese Navy ships of the Second World War. They're rolling out an extensive range of IGN crew figures, sailors at attention, sailors in action, and naval aviators, in 1 to 200th, 1 to 350th, and 1 to 700th scales. So whether you're crewing a modest submarine or a battleship roughly the size of a hatchback, nobody on deck will be allowed to look underemployed. They're also releasing dedicated detail upsets for Yamato, Musashi, and the destroyer Kagero, all in 1 to 700th scale, because clearly what those kits were missing was another few hundred microscopic parts. Fair warning, these sets tend to disappear shortly after release, usually just before you've finished convincing yourself you don't really need them. Expected release is February, so binoculars out and wallets at the ready. Next on the slipway, something for fans of escort carriers and people who enjoy masking patterns that make you question your life choices. Hasegawa are releasing a 1 to 350th USS Shamrock Bay. This is DVE-84, the 30th ship of the Casablanca class. The kit includes a masking set for that's rather lovely 3-tone splinter camouflage, plus 9 aircraft, all with folded wing options, because flat wings are clearly too simple. Decals allow you to depict the ship in multiple configurations between December 1944 and May 1945, which is excellent news if you enjoy cross-referencing photographs at 2 a.m. While this isn't a completely new tool, it has been a long time since Hasegawa last gave us a Casablanca-class carrier. Given the original dates back to 2010, we can expect new parts, upgrades, and just enough differences to justify buying it, even if you already own the original. This will be a limited edition, so US Navy fans, March 2026 is the date. You still have time to plan, and you will still be surprised by the price. And finally, Trumpeter have arrived with what can only be described as ambition. Trumpeter to release a series of PLA Navy destroyers in 1 to 200 scale, including the Type 052C Heiku, the Type 055 destroyer, DDG-138 Taitsu, and DDG-139 Ningbo. All of them are large, all of them are detailed, all of them quietly judging the size of your display space. But just in case that wasn't enough, Trumpeter are also planning a 1 to 200 German battleship Tirpitz. If this thing actually happens, you may need structural reinforcement, planning permission, and a dry dock extension. It will make the USS Langley, also planned in 1 to 700th scale, in both early carrier and seaplane tender boxing, look like a footnote. So there we have it. Crews for ships you haven't planned, carriers you hadn't intended to buy, and at least one battleship that might require its own room. This has been the Stash Inflation Report. And now over to Shane for our Gundam releases.
Nevs, right then, Benchmates. If you thought sci-fi modelling was meant to be subtle and understated, Strangeworks have something to say about it. First up, and this one's not shy, Strangeworks 1/60th Monument EX. Yes, that was 1/60th scale, because apparently moderation is optional. This unit is based on Wing Zero suit from Gundam Wing and the Swaltz, and yes, it comes with full angel wings. Sculpting's bang on, beautifully defined panels, layered surface textures, and enough mechanical detail to keep you busy for weeks. It's engineered to be approachable for new builders, but there's more than enough going on to keep experienced hands happy here. You also get multiple jointed components, optional display stands, design options, everything from serene self-presence to full-on operatic mechadrama. Now, size check. This thing spans 78 centimeters in width, with the wings fully and it's nearly as tall. You won't need a display cabinet, you will need planning permission. Estimated release is February 26th, and RIP of 135 for that one. If that didn't quite empty your wallet, let's go smaller, stranger, and infinitely more charming. Type 2C Super Ball Moon Snowman in 1/20th scale. It's back. Originally released as a limited edition in 2011, this is only the second re-release in 6 years, which already puts it firmly in the buy it now or regret it forever territory. It's a snap fit kit, no glue required, fully movable thanks to the poly caps at every joint. You get snake eyes and raptor, and the SAFS hatch. And for this release, a redesigned nose bar that transforms it into a wonderfully odd Moon Snowman variant. Packaging and decals have been refreshed as well, so even if you missed it the first time around, this version is well worth a look. Good news, it's available now on online retailers. Bad news, it's only £30, which means you'll convince yourself it's an impulse buy, and accidentally add 3 other kits into your basket whilst you're there. So there you go, Benchmates. From Angel Wing Self-Dominators to Lunar Snowmen with laser guns. Your stash didn't ask for this, but it's getting it anyway. Now over to Dan with the armor releases.
Thanks, Shane. Right then, after Shane's wandering off into the future, let's drag things firmly back into the mud, snow and steel of real-world history. RT Diorama. The Ardennes isn't just trees and snow, it's one of the most storied battlefields of the Second World War, from the German advance in 1940 to the desperate winter fighting of late 1944. This forest saw armour, infantry and supply columns collide in brutal conditions. RT Diorama's 135th Ardennes forest base gives you that history reading setting straight out of the box, ideal for late war winter scenes, exhausted infantry, knocked out vehicles or quiet moments between engagements. A strong foundation, a clear sense of place, and the rest of the story is yours to tell. From Zimmy Model. Leaping forward several decades, Zimmy Model stepped into the modern era with brand new tooling of the US Marine Corps amphibious combat vehicle personnel. The ACVP represents the future of marine expeditionary warfare, designed to replace the aging AAVs and built to operate seamlessly from ship to shore. This 1/35th scale kit includes 4 marking options, rubber tyres and sharp modern detailing that reflects today's multi-domain battlefield. A fascinating contrast to the Second World War subjects on your bench, and proof that military evolution never stops. Also from Zimmy Model, we have 2 very different but equally atmospheric subjects are on the horizon. The 15cm SFH-13 Geschützwaffe Lorraine Schlepper, a self-propelled heavy howitzer born from necessity as Germany sought mobile artillery solutions in the late war, and the SSY-45 heavy flat car rail, a reminder that railways were the arteries of the Wehrmacht, moving tanks, guns and supplies across Europe and offering diorama builders huge storytelling potential. From Mini Art, the G7117 cargo truck with water trailer. Wars aren't won without logistics, and the humble G7 was everywhere as Allies operate. This 135th kit captures a vital support vehicle used to keep troops moving and alive, particularly in remote and arid environments. With photo etch, multiple markings, and excellent canvas and chassis detail, it's perfect for supply columns, depots, or those quieter moments far from the front line, because history doesn't just happen at the sharp end. Dragon Models. Whirlwind returns. Looking ahead to 2026, Dragon announced an upgraded and newly tooled Flak Panzer IV Wirbelwind, early production with a 2-in-1 option. Born from the increasing Allied air threat in 1944, the verbal Wind was a stopgap solution, but an effective one combining mobility with rapid anti-aircraft fire, a classic subject refreshed for modern expectations. And finally, a legend from Meng Model. Meng's 172nd King Tiger with Porsche turret represents the very first production batch of the SDKF Z182 vehicles that shocked Allied forces when they appeared around Caen in July 1940. With its distinctive curved turret, monstrous 8.8cm gun, and near mythical battlefield presence, this compact but detailed kit brings one of history's most formidable tanks to life without demanding half of your display show. That's your Stash Inflation Report. History, hardware, and temptation in equal measure. And remember, it's a new year, so your I won it in a raffle credits have been refreshed.
Do you want cutting-edge detail for your kits? Then take a look at Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, run by USAF veteran Mike Reeves. With real-world aircraft experience as a crew chief, Mike knows exactly where accuracy counts. And today, he's bringing that knowledge to life with precision 3D printed parts. From seamless intakes and nozzles to dropped flaps, pods, pylons, and cockpit upgrades, Phase Hanger's prints capture the crisp edges and fine detail that limitations in injection molding just can't reproduce. From 1/72nd to 1/32nd scale, you'll find add-ons from Cold War classics to the latest frontline jets with frequent new additions to the product range. Every piece is designed by modelers, for modelers, and faithfully reproduced on state-of-the-art printers and shipped worldwide, and are ready to drop straight into your next build. With additions to the product line landing all the time, there's always something fresh to elevate your next build. Explore the full range at phasehangerresin.com and follow Phase Hanger on Facebook and Instagram for regular updates and inspiration. Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, authentic detail designed with a veteran's eye and available to modelers everywhere. Phase Hanger is a proud sponsor of the Beyond the Box Art podcast.
Think you've heard it all? Think again. Follow Beyond the Box Art on the socials for updates that breaks the boundaries, bends rules, and redefines the ordinary.
Right then, Benchmates, we've got a treat for you today. We're joined by someone who quite literally helped shape the way that modelling world talks to itself. He created the original tooling, proved that modelers could actually sit and listen to their grown adults talk about glue, plastic and aftermarket resin for hours. He is the originator of the world's first scale modelling podcast, On the Bench. He's an inspiration to all the shows on the scene today, including ours. Plus he's also the Vice President of Modelers Without Borders. So Benchmates, please give a very warm welcome to the Podfather himself, Digger Dave, also known as Dave Goldfinch.
Hi, Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Dave.
Welcome, Dave.
Welcome to the show.
Good evening, good morning. Salute.
Right then, Dave. So let's roll back the clocks. Going back 227 episodes to the very beginning of On the Bench. How is the Airfix new tooling of HMS Queen Elizabeth coming along?
You know what? I mean, Airfix, God bless them. I reckon if they had a royal warrant, they'd soon be issuing a HMS Queen Elizabeth, don't you think?
Oh,
So I think it's all up to us to go and write an email to Bonnie King Charles now, and say, haven't you issue a royal warrant to Airfix, and that'll then get a lighter rocket under their bum to get them producing a 1350. There is a 1700 scale just recently.
Trumpeter,
yes.
Yeah, but come on, guys, you want an English company producing it, don't you?
Yeah, true. But speaking to Dale from Airfix at Telford, and they are going to be coming on the show very soon, apparently they have to pay a license to MOD, the Ministry of Defence, to actually do any likenesses of any British subjects.
Well, hang on a second. You guys have already paid through your tax dollars to actually purchase and build the darn thing, so
Exactly.
that is a crock.
Yeah.
Somebody is telling Porky-Pie.
Yeah. Well, you're telling me the Chinese, that trumpeter, paid it? Come on.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
Exactly. It doesn't. It doesn't. Anyway.
Then again, the Chinese have probably got more accurate drawings of the ship than we have.
Yeah. Oh, Brownie, come on. Oh, dear. Jeez.
Oh, dear. Anyway, Wongy.
Dave, as the creator of the first scale modelling pod.
Yep.
What was your light bulb moment when you realised the hobby needed this voice in this format? And did you ever imagine that it would spark a global wave of modelling podcasts very similar like ours?
Yeah, I like the way you slipped that in, Molly. That was like the funny thing. I used to drive quite a lot for work, and I find myself sitting on the freeway in the mornings and going home, and I listen to podcasts because I was sick of AM and FM radio with all the ads and everything in it. And I thought, there's no modelling podcast. That's odd. So I got home and sort of looked at how you do a podcast, and I double checked there's no modelling podcast around. And then I called my mate Ian up and said, how about we have a crack at doing this? He goes, yeah, that's not a bad idea. So I went and bought all the expensive equipment, and before I even knew it was going to be successful or not, and off we went. And I had no idea at the time. I imagined maybe if in our wildest dreams we'd perhaps do about, maybe get 2 years out of it. And we're up to year 9 at the moment. Our 10th year is next year. And I didn't even foresee that there would be so many other people sort of coming on. In fact, I had an email from a chap just the other day who said he's starting up another podcast. And it's just such a pleasing thing to see, because we all sort of reach out to each other, and we all sort of talk to each other, help each other out with technical issues. And we've all become really close mates and good friends. And I know that I was thrilled to the back teeth when Brownie sort of reached out to me not that long ago now and said, hey, I'm thinking of doing something similar as well. And I just couldn't be happier. I think the more, the better, the more, the merrier. It's like you wake up one morning, you find there's a new model shop just opened up down the road from you, or there's another modelling manufacturer kicking off. I mean, I might not listen to every single one of them, but there's certainly something there that captures my interest at least once a month or whatever. There's certainly some there that I like listening to all the time. On the Bench is one I listen to all the time.
You listen to yourself? Really?
I do. I like the sound of my voice. So it's, especially at night time, I put it on and I send myself to sleep.
Well, that's true, but also you can switch yourself off. I might try that.
I can't stand the sound of my own voice. That's the thing.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm not happy. And I don't think Balders has ever listened to one yet.
But Wally, what you can do on your digital side of things, you can increase the bass, and it makes any sort of wimpy voice sound pretty good. So,
bloody hell, you mean I can sound like Barry White?
Yeah, of course you can. Just play with the mixer there and off you go.
Oh, blimey. The wife might actually listen to me.
Oh, yeah, baby.
I sounded like Palpatine then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you did, actually.
We've got one that look alike, Palpatine.
The force is strong in this one.
Oh, dear. Anyway, moving on. Nevs.
Yeah, moving on to the actual Palpatine. So, Dave, over the years and 227 episodes.
Yep.
On the Bench has shaped conversations, its trends. It's even given us a bit of humour back within the hobby. Looking back, what episode or guest do you think has had the biggest impact on you personally as a modeller?
Oh, it's not a guest I've actually had on the show per se. It was somebody who I met overseas when I went to IPMS Nationals in the US, and he came up to me and he said he was ex-service and he was going through a hard time, and he was really, really thinking about just finishing it all. He'd had enough. He just reached that point in his life. And for some reason, he happened to sort of flip through and put on one of our podcasts. And he said, just listening to us guys, he said, sound like, you listen to people at a bar, or your mates down at a local hobby club or local model shop. And he said that sort of changed his perspective. And we just stood there and we held each other and cried. It was just absolutely amazing. So that's the most powerful. And since I've had quite a few other reactions too from other people who have struggled with issues as well in their lives, and they've said, how much of a impact the podcast has had on them, which it's not even in our wildest dreams would we
imagine we could have an effect on people like that who are, at their seeing at their rock bottom or their poorest. And the fact that we've been able to sort of do that unintentionally, I think means more to me than anything else that I've ever achieved, certainly on the podcast, that's for sure. Most of you guys know that I'm in emergency services and I've done volunteer marine rescue and I've saved lives in that aspect in my sort of career. But, and you don't often get to see those guys again after you sort of pull them out of the water. You don't sort of catch up with them again, so you don't know what the follow-on story is. So to have somebody actually come up to you and say, hey, listen, your podcast helped me through a really dark time in my life is pretty special.
I must admit, we've had one of those emails come in ourselves, even at the age of our show.
Yeah.
And it really does hit you between the eyes when you actually read it and just think, well, us having a conversation and a chat about something that we love actually helps someone to that degree. And if it has, absolutely fantastic. And, a stranger's a friend you haven't met yet.
Oh, indeed. Yeah.
In the ability for us just having a chat, if it can have that effect, great.
I think the interesting thing is that there's a couple of things there. It certainly shows that organisations like Models for Heroes, et cetera, are well needed within our society. And the second thing it sort of says to me is that even within our own community, and I call it modelling a community as such, is that there are a lot of people out there hurting who we don't necessarily know or see. They're invisible because what we do is a very sort of lonely sort of craft or hobby. By and large, you sit in your basement or in the back shed or in your spare room or in your man cave and you just sort of model away. And if you're not a member of a club or you don't go out to model shows, and YouTube has got a certain thing, but YouTube is sort of different the way it's sort of structured, whereas we're sort of podcasts are sort of a bit more, I want to say personal. I don't know. I can't explain it, but there's a lot more intimacy between us and the audience than, say, a YouTube channel. Because with a YouTube channel, people are going to get instructed, are they not? And also being entertained in the second point. Whereas I think with podcasts, they're here to sort of be entertained firstly and maybe have a laugh at some of at our expenses. We sort of tell some of the things that we've done wrong as we go along. So yeah. It's amazing how something so simple can lift somebody up so easily. It is, isn't it? And I took up modelling again. I came back to it, because I hadn't done it for so many years and it's something always in the back of my mind, but I needed something in my life to distract me from my sort of day-to-day life. And I can go into the model room and sit down there and just generally do nothing. I can move the stuff across the bench sometimes,
Did you model as a kid then, Dave?
Yeah, I did.
Or is it something that's come to you later on in life?
No, my dad, he bought a Airfix B17. I well remember it, and he painted it all and built it, and I probably sort of smashed all the props as I was running around the room going, as I was sort of flying around.
Yeah, we've all done it. Yeah.
And so that was my sort of entry, and then I wasn't a lonely kid, but there wasn't too sort of many boys in my area as I was growing up. And then, luckily enough, across the road from me, 3 brothers moved in, and they were all sort of NAD builders. And they used to have a garage, and we'd set up all the Airfix sort of soldiers, and we'll have different airfields, and we'd have these huge, humongous World War II battles over and over again on the weekend. So it was great, and and obviously then as you get older, girls and work and mortgages sort of all catch up with you, but you finally come back to it.
As Vice President of Modellers Without Borders, can you give us an update on the worldwide online competition?
Certainly can. So the competition is closed. It was our very first attempt at a competition, and we were pretty happy with the way it went, aside from the few technical issues we had at the start of it. It's closed down, and the other sort of thing we've come across is because we've got judges from all around the world, we've been having issues catching up with all the judges at the same time so they can sort of do what they've got to do as judges and get through it all. But I think by and large it's all sort of done now. So we've come away with some major lessons that we'll carry through into next year when we do VMX 26. And because post-COVID, so you saw a lot of these sort of
online competitions popping up. And since COVID, they've sort of, by the large, sort of dropped off now. So we're sort of looking to sort of build this up to be a fairly big annual event. So, and I'm sure that the guys who've gone through and entered the stuff and have won are quite thrilled by that. And hopefully we'll get the same amount of people, even more, joining in next year.
How many entrants were there?
I knew you were going to ask me this, and I don't have that to hand. It was in excess of 400, I want to say, which is not bad for a first day.
Very good. And what was the geographic spread? Did you find more entrants from one part of the world compared to others?
I think the majority is probably similar to the way the podcast is spread. So I reckon about 50% to 60% would have come from the US, with the rest being spread around the world. And I think having international judges from around the world who are known leaders in their own sort of modelling genre would have helped as well, bring in a larger international audience and if we had have done it in another way.
Well, when you've got the details for VMX 26, let us know and we'll be pushing it out like we did for 25.
I certainly will. And we do have some exciting news coming out about something else, which is going to be kicking off in October 2026. I haven't got any more to sort of say on that, but watch this bandwidth, this radio station, because I think you've got to tweak Brownie as to what it is. So
I know exactly what it is.
That should be very, very exciting. So we're looking forward to pushing that one. And yeah, I think it should be good for the hobby.
Couldn't agree more. And everyone's now thinking, what the hell are they talking about? Well, all I can say is...
Exactly right.
Just wait and you will find out, but it's going to be big. Very big.
Well, it's a good tease, isn't it? It's a good tease.
Oh, God, very much so. Okay, then. Boulders.
Hang on. Mark, you finished with me? That's it?
Why, you got more to say?
Oh, you've got another one in a minute, mate. Don't worry. I'll fluff the other one up. You've still got time yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right, boulders.
Yeah, from your perspective, what is the biggest challenge facing the scale modelling community today, and how can podcasts, clubs, and initiatives like Modellers Without Borders work together to address it?
The biggest challenge, I think, is our ageing demographic for traditional modelling. I think that's the one that worries me the most. And having said that, I mean, I have never seen such a range of kits that are available and aftermarket products that are available. Even 10 years ago, if you had told me, what's available now, I wouldn't have believed you. So I think that is something as a hobby that we need to sort of address. And we do it through bringing in the likes of young'uns like Nevy there, young James, and his ilk. And we do that by going to where they're building and what they're building. That's how we sort of bring them into the fold. And we don't have to even bring them into the fold. What we really have to do is celebrate and champion what they're building and what they're doing. And that will then sort of lift and elevate everybody else at the same time. Because I want James to sort of, when he goes off and you're not married yet, are you, James?
No, God, no chance of that.
Okay. So once he gets married, has kids and has a mortgage and, gets sort of, crushed by everyday life, I want him to come back in, 20, 30 years.
Oh, dear.
It's an easy move as well. Easy. Anything to get out of the rat race of bringing kids up and, I'll be in my little room. Just give us a shout if you need me. Tell me when tea's ready.
Yeah. So Baldy said, what can the podcast do? I think what the podcast can do is, look, I don't mind some podcasts specialising in some areas. I think that's good. I mean, you got the Insanity Car podcast now. There's another podcast as well. There's one that's mainly sort of aimed around science fiction, and for life of me, I can't remember what it is. That one is because there's so many of them around now. But I think we need to be open to having different genres and different guests on our show to make sure that we're capturing the greater audience and also introducing people to things that they perhaps haven't thought of before.
There's so many different techniques now compared to the old days when we literally had a pot of Humbrol, some thinners, and a hairy stick.
Oh, yeah. And there's even old stuff to be rediscovered and relearned.
Exactly.
Let's go back and have a look at what the railroad guys did. I mean, that's where photo etch originated from.
Yeah.
And you've got a sort of weird sort of clan of them that likes
distressing and aging their rolling stock. And some of the stuff that those guys do is just, sensational.
Absolutely. And what you can actually pick up from different subjects, as you're saying. You look at armor builders and you think, how can that actually affect the aircraft that I'm building? But when you start thinking about weathering,
yeah,
and putting the right amount of weathering on in the right places,
yes,
and how you actually deliver that effect onto your model, just because the guest may be an AFV some expert or a Gundam expert or something like that, you can pick up tips that you never even thought of.
Yeah.
To actually put onto your own model.
Yeah. So while the specialist podcasts do their thing, which I think is great, and I've got no problem with, I think the generalist podcasts, which is a few of us, need to sort of make sure that we're still keeping an eye open and making sure that we're catering to all of the modelling sort of fraternity, not just ships or cars or whatever.
Yeah, quite. There's far too many ships these days being talked about.
There's not enough. Come on. There's not enough.
Have you told him what's happened with the rest of us? I've done aircraft for nearly, over 30 years. Now building ships. Wongi's building ships. Nevs is building ships.
I've got ships to do.
I've got no ships whatsoever.
Okay, I can change that.
I've got loads here if you want any.
The only ships I've got is hard ships.
Oh, bum, I'll be here all week.
Oh, dear. Anyway, with that, moving on. Wongy.
With so many new podcasts inspired by On the Bench, including the very latest one, which is CSM Podcasts, which complements their Champion Scale Modelling YouTube channel, run by Jason Champion. What a brilliant name.
That's the one I was thinking of. He wrote to me, yes. Thank you.
What advice would you give to all these fellow shows, including ours, to keep their shows authentic and valuable to the community?
A couple of things there, Wongy. So first of all, I don't think so much that we inspired other people to do a podcast. I think that once somebody builds a rocket, other people go, that's how you do it. And then they go and build their own. So there's that part of it. And I'm first to say that, it wasn't us that sort of, started it as such. Podcasting was already there. We were just the first sort of clowns who decided to buy some microphones and talk about modelling. Sorry, so the other part of the question was, what advice would I give to them? Okay, just find your own way. Just find your own beat. People don't want to have the same pancake every day. You've got to find a different way of making pancakes. So that's the only honest way of doing it. And be yourself as well. Don't try to be something that you're not, because people can detect whether you're being honest and open or true to yourself pretty easy. It comes across. And
what you're saying to us is be genuine idiots the way we are.
Well, I wasn't going to say idiots. I had another word, but
oh, right, okay.
I know it's G-rated, so no. But you've got to. Surely you guys can sort of look back on even just your 10 episodes and see how much you've grown in the last 10 episodes. You get to a point where we've got to a point where I can start a sentence, and Julia knows where I'm going with it, or Ian knows what's coming next. And it's only because we're just been together that long that you sort of get to know how things are going to track. And that comes across as for people who are listening, that it sounds to them like we're all really good mates. And I think that's the first part of it. If you're going to start a podcast, find some mates that you really get on with to start it first. Don't start a podcast and then go and find some people to sit with you in a studio and do it, because it just won't work. It won't come across as being genuine. You look at the geeks, they're all sort of, ex-Navy and all mates from their local model club, and all the rest of them as well. They've all known the people who they've got on. They've done it for years and years and years. And it comes across as being, quite genuine.
Oh, thank you for that. And certainly it helps for us because we're all part of Bolton IPMS.
Yeah, we all know each other, don't we, quite well for years.
Yeah, and it's one where I suppose we still like each other, don't we?
Speak for yourself, Wongi. Well, says Mr. Silver winner from Telford.
Yeah, I know.
Who I want to punch in the nose. His first time out building a ship and he gets silver at Telford, for goodness sakes.
It's a fluke, Dave. Come on, it's a fluke. But it was very nice.
Look, the halo's slipping round your neck. Look at that. It's slipped down round your neck, the halo.
I'm surprised it's not stuck on your forehead.
Oh, no, tell me.
I ran round Telford when I got mine. I got a gold one, right? Really, look at me. Ulam.
I tried to do a Mexican wave, but it was only just me.
Oh, dear.
All good fun. All good fun.
Anyway, moving on. Nevs.
Dave, I know you touched on it earlier with all the exciting things that came to us as scale model builders, things like from the railway hobby, the weathering, the photo it, and obviously you talked about the supremacy of naval shipbuilding and how important that is. But after all these years, what's still exciting you about the hobby, about the new kits that are coming out, the new techniques, or even the people that you meet?
I think everything still excites me. I mean, I can go to a hobby store and I'll walk up and down the aisle and I'll go, oh, look at this, oh, look at that. And there might be something, a genre I haven't built for years and years and years, but I'll look at it. It'll appeal to me there and then, and I'll put it in my pocket and take it home with me. You know, I'll buy it and bring it home and it'll sit in my stash for another time when I can build it. What else is exciting at the moment is rocketry, real space subjects. Oh my God, we are in an absolute golden age for real space at the moment. I keep banging on and bleating about this, but hands up those around here remember the Apollo missions and all that sort of stuff. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So obviously the ones who are the silverbacks. Okay. I mean, it was just so exciting as a kid, and you're watching all this, and you used to get, I remember you'd go to the corner store and you'd get a ice cream. Instead of being in like a wrapper, it would be in a plastic cone shaped like a mercury capsule. And you'd eat the ice cream and wash that and play with that for the next week. You know, it's awesome. And so I'm a bit mystified why the real space to the side of modelling hasn't really jumped out. I don't know, perhaps there's a lack of story models that's available. I don't know. But there are some great 3D companies out there that are coming to the fore now, producing some fantastic stuff, which is really exciting. And I'm buying it up as quick as he can produce it.
Obviously, I know you're a fan of the real space genre, and I think
I am. And look, but everything still excites me. I mean, if Airfix bring out a new kit and it's got sort of new artwork on it, I mean, even the artwork on the front of the box will still stop me in my tracks and make me reach in my pocket and buy something.
And me, it wins me over every time, the artwork.
It does. I mean, and that's what sort of captures me when I was a kid. You'd sort of, go to the shop and you'd press your nose up against the window and looking at all that fantastic artwork and everything by Airfix back in the day, back in the late 60s and 70s. And it's what sold the kits, I think, to tell you the truth, or certainly help people go in and buy them.
Definitely. Are you still doing dinosaurs? Is it you that does the dinosaurs?
No, that's Ian. He does those crazy dinosaurs. And I should.
They do look good. You know, since listening to that, when I was at Telford, I actually started to pick up on them. Because at first I thought I don't recall ever seeing dinosaurs, but once I'd heard that, and when I was walking around, there was plenty there to see. It's quite surprising.
But tell you who's an absolute master at doing dinosaurs. It's Scott from the Scale Model Supply, and he usually does good dinosaurs. Always award winning, and he's got this because it's not easy to do a dinosaur because it's got all that stupid like little lumps and bumps all over it, and you've got to sort of paint it in such a way that it sort of morphs from one color to another, and he can do it so it looks like the real thing. It's quite stunning actually.
Yeah.
It also helps if you actually own a paint company. You can actually mix the colours that you need.
I'm pretty sure I know Scott, and Scott would use the actual paints he produces. He wouldn't do something special for himself unless he's researching. But he's also a ex sort of doublet builder as well. Not ex, he still does it as well. He dabbles with it, but dinosaurs are his passion.
I think Gunpla and Bandai is the way forward, isn't it? Really, especially for bringing youngsters in.
Yeah, it's wall to wall here.
Over in Hong Kong, definitely.
Well, that and Games Workshop, if they'd ever sort of learned to sort of that the market they're aiming for, they need to sort of cut prices a bit because some of the stuff they charge is an arm and a leg for is just, horrendous. And I think they could catch a lot more if they sort of drop the price mark a little bit. But that's my thoughts.
Aimed at pocket money prices rather than...
Yeah, well, that's right, yeah. And maybe they need to start doing that. They need to start sort of producing stuff to aim at the pocket money. I mean, it's not hard to figure out what the average kid gets pocket money for. There's national surveys that sort of tell you all that sort of stuff. And that's what you're going to sort of aim at to sort of capture that young market. Because looking at us, I mean, we're a fantastic representation. You catch us young and you've got us for the rest of your life.
Forever. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Absolutely. It used to be, my pocket money was 50p back in the day. And for that, I could get a Matchbox kit, 25 pence, yeah, and the 25p on sweets. And that was Saturday done for me.
I used to get 50 cents and I was torn because I wanted to go buy the next Battle comic or AD 2000, if any of you guys sort of remember that.
Oh, yes, indeed, yeah.
And then there was the model that I wanted to buy. So luckily for me, like I think AD 2000 and the Battle comics, one of those Battle, and there was Commando. What was the other one? There was a third one as well.
Valiant,
yeah. They were the lower run. We've got to be honest one.
Weren't Valiant and Commando very similar? You know, the small, really good, really well drawn.
Yeah. Valiant wasn't so much. Commando was the next step up, but it was Battle that was the real sort of artwork was done, and that was the one you always aimed to collect. Sadly, I had hundreds of the darn things, and when I was away with the army up in New South Wales back in the 80s, my mum sort of tragically threw them all out. She didn't think I needed them anymore. God. Anyway.
God. Yeah. Yeah, I bet you cried with that one, didn't you?
I didn't. I was a bit peeved at the time, but I cry now knowing how much they're worth now. Well, it's more now and back then.
Oh, dear.
Can you still get them? Are they still available? Are they still coming?
Surprisingly are. And occasionally you'll see they'll still put out the annual. You remember the annuals you used to buy?
I do.
Oh, come on. Like, yeah. AD 2000 did them.
I've only just learnt to read in the last 12, 15 episodes.
Oh, Mark, you'd be right. These are all comics, so you didn't need to read. Just look at the pictures.
Oh, I could get them bits. They were easy. I could get all that. Yeah. No.
Oh, poor Nick. Got no idea what we're talking about.
Obviously, Dave, we've touched on space. And where do you think real space modeling's heading next? Because obviously we're on the edge of renaissance for space subjects at the minute. And what would you love to see manufacturers tackle that still feels overlooked? Or in other words, using your skills and forecasting new releases as per episode 1 of On the Bench, what's in the pipeline?
Well, luckily there is a manufacturer in the US, Shadow 3D, and he produces real space rockets and ballistic missiles in 144 scale, 148 scale, and 72nd scale. And so I bought a ton of his products. Airfix and Revell are just releasing the Artemis. I really hope that sells rock scale, mind you, but they're my biggest can't be choosers. I really hope that both of those sell really hard and fast. So it really sort of lights a fire on those companies to look at producing other real space subjects. Looking at their crystal ball, I have to put a bit of pessimism is creeping in. I can't say that it will go as well as it wants to go, because the subject you always want to go well, your own sort of, pet little passion, never does it? No. I mean, just look at the HMS Queen Elizabeth. So that's debacle's being going for 9 years now. And I really hope you can have a long chat to the chaps at Airfix about that, because it's just not right. I mean, come on, they did HMS Trafalgar, which was the nuke submarine. They've done other sort of subjects in the right scale. So HMS Deering.
We'll ask that question for you.
Please do.
Just on that, a couple of years ago at Telford, Airfix had on their table or their stand a 1/350th HMS Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier, and everybody went nuts.
Yes.
And then they announced this, somebody's done this for us.
Yes, I remember that.
So it's for us. And everybody was so deflated that they weren't bringing out a 1/350th Queen Elizabeth class aircraft carrier that I think they sort of didn't realise how much of an impact it would have had, because it just deflated everybody, because it was the brand new, £6 billion plus aircraft carrier that they had a model of on the stand, and they were like, yeah, we're not doing it. And it was like so deflating.
They'll be better doing Prince of Wales.
It's a shame the people who built the thing didn't get it out on the market. They'd have made a fortune.
Yeah. Well, alongside the fact that
one does.
Yeah, the 35B. Yeah, 35B was coming out by them. So it would have complemented it straight away.
Exactly right.
Missed opportunity.
It is. And look, I'll get the commercial pressures and all that because it's not cheap doing a new mold and ramping up to, build something new. But by the same token, I still think it'd be a tearaway success. I really do.
Everyone's been complaining about the quantity of Spitfires and 109s that Airfix have been bringing out recently. But if they don't get the sales from the stalwarts, they're not going to have the money to develop the more esoteric models.
Yeah.
So hopefully the sales from the new 109 that they've announced is going to actually go towards funding something a little bit more left field.
Yeah, and I could care less if a producer makes or manufactures another 109 or FW190 or a Spitfire or Hurricane. I understand enough to know that that's what funds the esoteric sort of side of things.
That's what Kotare did it.
Yeah. Well, I think they've learned some hard lessons from the old Wingnut Wings days. So, and that's sort of...
Yeah, because there were a few odd choices there, wasn't there?
Well, there were, but obviously Kotare's in quite a safe place now because look at the announcement, and they've done it the right way. The announcement for the Halifax.
Hurricane. Oh, the Halifax, yeah, 48th, yeah, fantastic.
But they're a bit smarter about it. They've said, okay, if you want this, you've got to sign up to it and, put some dollars down. I mean, that's the way to do it, isn't it? I mean, why not talk to FX, their marketing company, and say, hey, if you, do it that way.
Big thing going anyway on Facebook and places. You get a lot of companies do I think, is it called startup or something like that? And they have to generate a certain amount of money before they can actually.
Yeah, they do. But if you are going to go to, if Airfix, well, Kotare have done it, they've said, hey, if you're interested in getting on board for the the Halifax, put some dollars down and you'll be registered. And that way they know how many to run. I mean, obviously they're looking for a certain number, which is going to be their break-even number. I don't know what it is. But once they reach that point, then they know they're going to get more sales above and beyond that, aren't they? So the same with Airfix. You can say to Airfix, well, put out a thing we're asking for people to, put £20 down.
I think they're doing that now.
I don't really.
I think Airfix are putting feelers out now to what people want for future.
Yeah, but so the problem with that is that people always put down this, what they want, and the manufacturers go, oh, yeah, but, and then they build it and nobody buys it. It might be like a Stuka, okay? It might be a Blackburn Stuka. So people say, oh, yeah, we want a Blackburn Stuka in 124 scarp because nobody's ever done it before. And then the company goes and produces it and only sells about 5 copies. So you've got to be careful of those and, what people want. I think the better way of doing it is asking for some hard cash down to help support and fund the company for the outlay of the costs. And of course, then you get guaranteed a model at a discount price once it comes out for those who put their money down to begin with.
Crowdfunding, that's what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, crowdfunding. Yeah, that's the term we were looking for, Wongy. Yeah.
I'd love to know how much it actually costs to produce a tool these days, because
a tool, you're looking at anything from, easy. I think perhaps it's kind of different nowadays because you do the CAD drawings and you send it off to somewhere in Asia for them to do it because it's cheaper for them to do it over there. But
it's all CNC, isn't it, and stuff like that, all computer.
Well, it is. It is. But even that sort of misses the mark sometimes. You get two choices in the mold. You can do aluminium molds with stainless steel backing that has all the coolant running through so it works. Or you can do a full-on stainless steel mold. So obviously there's a slight cost difference there. But you're right. It's, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 100,000, who knows? It's not cheap. And certainly it would be around 6 figures. And then you've got your box art. Then you've got your production of the boxes that comes in. You've got to pay some guy to do decals. Decals aren't cheap to do either. They're very expensive. And then you've got, if anything, the cheapest thing in the whole box that you buy is the plastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Luke from Revell, when he was on talking about their 2026 releases, said literally the plastic is the cheapest part. The decal
is
the most expensive part in the box.
But companies can look at, I mean, surely that company is smart enough to say, well, instead of doing printing instructions, let's do a QR code in the box and then it's online. And that way, any mistakes that are made that come about, they can upgrade the instructions online a lot easier than they can do with printed instructions. This, I don't know why I'm telling companies this. Surely they must be thinking about this. I mean, they can't not be, surely.
A build video, a step-by-step build video would probably engage. Yeah.
Well, that's another way you could, yeah, absolutely. You could do that as well. That's another way of sort of, cutting costs, because surely it wouldn't cost that much to hire a YouTuber to sort of just do a quick build and sort of, this is how it's done type thing.
And to be fair, how many of us actually read the instructions anyway?
Very good point, Brady.
Am I the only one that keeps all the instructions, or do we all do it?
No, I keep them.
No, I do it as well.
I'm forced to keep the instructions here because there's a particular show in my own home state, and if you have to include the instructions to be awarded a point in the judging of it, which is a stupid rule anyway. But anyway, it's that's why I keep them.
Telford does the same thing.
Oh, do they really?
Certain builds have to have the instructions with it.
Oh, okay.
If it's out of the box, I think if it's a build that's out of the box, it has to have proof that they can look at and see everything that there is actually out of the box. And
I must admit, I go to Scalemates to actually look at the PDF version if I need to refer to anything. Very rarely will I get the paper version out.
Yeah.
You mentioned YouTube earlier. I've used YouTube to go, when I was doing the little Airfix Dornier, the DO17Z, and there were some bits that I've been modelling for 40 years, and I'm thinking, I can't get this. How does this? So I ended up watching some guy on YouTube, and it was user error. It was me. Oh God, that's how you do it. Oh, easy. So why don't you just turn it the other way and then it fits? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Just the way you're wearing your headphones is stopping the rest of that knowledge leaking out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I resemble that remark.
That was a bit underhanded, yeah.
Looking at what Dragon are now releasing with their 148th BF109, where the fuselage is a slip mould and is virtually a 7 or 8 major component part in the kit. Decals are literally replacing painting of the model.
Yes.
Do you think that we're actually looking at scale modelling in the conventional term starting to actually mirror the Gundam way of building?
Well, that's a good question and an astute observation, Brownie.
Fine Molds did that quite a few years ago with their 72nd scale 109s. They introduced some that had the full wing camo and the little dots that the speckly bits on the fuselage, all decal. There we go.
F-Toys do it as well.
Airfix Quick Build. There you go there.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah, you do build models.
Yeah,
you do finish one. I was thinking of starting them quick builds because that's the only way I'll finish one.
Yeah, good payback, Brown Mark. Look, I think it's in concept and anything to sort of help bring. I mean, I'll go back to something I've seen, in model shops where you got the sales guy there and you get somebody's coming in for the first time and she wants to buy a model for her son for his birthday. And has he built before? No, he likes cars. Well, here's this car here and here's the paint here to go and take away. And okay, no, that's the wrong model for a first timer, So I think it's a break because Dragon haven't really been doing much of late, have they? Really, it's apart from jacking their prices up on old kits. I think it's an interesting move. I think it's good. I'm certainly one who would like to see the engineering of Bandai, who produces all the Gundams, etc., trickled out to the rest of the modelling community. Although having said that, I mean, by and large, models these days aren't that bad, right? Put my thinking cap on. I mean, I've recently built the Kinetic Harrier, and there are a couple of oopses there, but it's nothing like the old days of, Frog. And when I say the old days, I'm saying even the 90s and the 80s, really. Well, we got fairly poor kits. Hella, oh my God, I've got some kits from Hella that are shockers that I'll never finish or build because they're just pain in the butt. So it's interesting that Dragon have gone this way, and I think it's mainly aimed at a different target audience than perhaps we can see. And because Dragon are sort of in Asia, maybe they've got their eye on a different target audience. And than what we think they've got their eye on. But I'd like to see how it sort of progresses and what comes out of it. If it's better engineered.
Saying that new 109's in a different league, isn't it? I mean, have you seen any of the CADs for it? And the
No, I haven't. I've seen you CAD through it, but I'll wait and until we see some proper prints of it.
Yeah, well, the plastic's out over here, and I've seen
Oh, is it really?
I've seen some photographs of the builds, and it looks absolutely fantastic. You've got no seam lines on the fuselage, so you're taking away a part of the element of the actual scale modelling that we perceive it as. But I'm looking at it potentially as the stepping stone from the Gundam builders to actually coming into conventional models. And I'm just wondering if they're going that way, because they've also just announced they're now going to do some 3D printed engines for it, which look absolutely ridiculous in quality. And you're just thinking, what stage are they actually taking out of the conventional build compared to what we would actually think about having to sit down to actually plan how we're actually going to produce the whole thing from scratch? Really it's a transition, I think, from the old style to the new style in inverted commas. And I can see more manufacturers going down that route, but at what point does a kit that you can actually put together in 5 minutes that has no seam lines then detract from the conventional hobby?
Bowler's got his hand up, so obviously he's got a thought on the subject.
The 109 should have a seam line on the fuselage behind the cockpit.
Yes.
That's the only thing I was about to say, because top and bottom, because the panels were like a clamshell that went over. So I'm just hoping Dragons actually put the seam line in, because that might be a bit of a catastrophic thing for them. Because the amount of people that have sanded it off, and you're thinking, where's the panel line? Well, no, it's not. It's an actual panel line.
But haven't we not seen this before, where you've got Edward, they do their weekend builds, which is a simplified kit with this? Because again, I mean, I look at us sort of sitting here talking, and we're fairly, I'd rate us as hardcore modelers. The vast majority of the modelling public out there are just casual. They'll just rock in and buy a kit and sort of, have it there and build it. And they'll never be a member of a club. They'll never go to a model show. They'll probably very rarely, if ever, sort of listen to a podcast, or even if they even know we're here, or even go to a YouTube channel. They just do it for the fun of it. So I think that those quick builds would perhaps appeal to that target audience. And maybe Dragon do have their eye on bringing the Gundam crowd across. Hurrah if they do. That's fantastic.
Agreed. So getting a younger perspective on this, Nevs, what do you think on the way that this is actually developing?
I'd say it should be alongside conventional modelling, not in replacement of it. It's the same as, we talk about Gunpla Gundam being the way forward. For someone like me, I'm interested in the old subject. And I think, looking at it a bit more philosophically, for hundreds of years, guys, boys, whatever, have played with little toy soldiers and little toy planes. And it's always been, we've looked back. And the problem is, the demographic that the majority of you guys are talking about, the Second World War is what you look back to, and maybe the first sort of generation of jets. The guys that are coming up now, what have they got to look back to is their hallmark? What generation? I mean, is it going to be Desert Storm era? Maybe modern sort of. I think that's probably where that catchment's going to go, in terms of it's going to have to be ultra modern subjects, ultra modern in our sense, but not ultra modern in their sense. We're talking 20-year-old kit.
Now, the kids who are watching Desert Storm, that was back in 1991. So if they were 10 then, they're in their 40s now. So they're probably building now. It's in question, Nev, what are the catch points for the current sort of 20-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds? I don't know.
I would have said it was movie based, Iron Man, things like that, the sci-fi kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. Real rockets launching.
Yeah. Real stuff. Yeah, why not?
Well, you say that the actual renaissance, as we've said all about before, for spaceflight is coming back in with Artemis, and also looking at the potential moon landings that are coming up in the new year.
Yes.
Or in the next couple of years, rather. We're looking at something that we have, I'll say, taken for granted with the Apollo era and the space shuttle, etc. But something that is going to be how many years is it since we actually lasted on the moon? Approaching 50, 60 years?
It's over 50.
It's 50. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to actually enliven, and people will be cashing in on it as any way that they can. And I know Luke from Well said, as soon as they actually start the moon landings, they can see a whole raft of real space subjects coming online. But when you've got the likes of SpaceX not releasing licenses to produce models of their subjects because they want to basically get a few dollars from licensing out of it, and the few dollars read quite a few dollars, which is why most people haven't actually produced anything from the SpaceX range yet, are we looking at it in two different ways?
I know a couple of manufacturers going around the corner with 3D printing to sort of get around that scapegoat. So, yes. But you're right. That's why it boggles me that that Airfix are required to sort of pay some, what's the name of the company that produces that built the
BAE Systems,
the Queen Elizabeth BAE Systems, yeah.
And
it wasn't just BAE Systems; it was a whole host of hundreds of sort of sub manufacturers and everything as well. Jeez, anyway. But you look at other things that I'm thinking about, other things that sort of still capture people's minds. You get Formula One cars still being produced. To me, are still sort of kicking out the odd Formula One here and there, and that's got a huge following still. Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be interesting. Yeah.
I think everybody's protective of their trademarks, aren't they, really? And even down to when you look at models with the RAF roundels, even the RAF roundels are protected trademark.
But so here's the thing. If I was a car manufacturer, I'd want every kid building a model of the car that I've got going off the production line because A, it's forming brand loyalty, and B, it's, showing cars that if you can, what these companies don't understand, if you can foster brand loyalty at a young age, you've got that person hooked all the way through for the rest of their lives. I mean, so we used to have GMH Holden, Dual-Mose Holden out here, and now no longer in production or building cars out here anymore. But, there must be something an equivalent over in Europe or the UK. If you pump something out, and as I said, you get them hooked, they're going to stay brand loyal. Look, Apple does a fantastic job of that. I mean, it's not by and large a fantastic sort of piece of equipment. God, no, ask me how I know, because I had some issues with some Apple recently. But it's, they've got that brand loyalty sort of baked in now. And so the question is, if I went to them as a modeling company and said, hey, I want to do a version of your iPhone 21, which is coming out in 6 or 7 years' time, I wonder if they'd charge them royalty fee on that. Oh no, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, why make it difficult? It's free advertising in a way, isn't it? It's why make it harder than it is, that it needs to be?
Yeah, I know. I used to work for a plastic manufacturing company, and we used to manufacture products for a dairy. And one of the advertising guys was in the car with him one day, and he goes, how I can tell how one of my advertising campaigns has been successful? I said, no, how? He goes, by seeing all of our cartons tossed on the side of the road as I drive along. That means people are drinking it and, throwing the trash out. And he uses that as a metric to say his advertising campaign's been successful. But it's a similar sort of point, though, isn't it? If you get somebody hooked at an early age and, continue sort of ram it into them, well, not ram it into them, but encourage them to
tease them.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I should be in one of these major sort of, blue chip companies getting paid millions of dollars a year to be their marketing guru. I think
when you think on, Airfix did a good job of it in the 60s, didn't they, with those lot,
Well, 100%. I still look at Airfix with the deepest affection every time. And if I see one of their old catalogues, I get this sort of catch in my throat, and it directly takes me back to being that 9, 10, 11-year, 12-year-old. It's just,
I've still got a couple. And when I look through them now, from 1972, 73, 74, when they first started bringing the big 24 scale stuff out. And each image has got a little blue tick next to it, or 2 ticks. And they're the ones I've done. They're the ones I've built. I've done it twice.
I must admit, when Airfix brought out the 124th back in the 70s, and you're thinking this is going to be the start of something fantastic, then all of a sudden the brakes came on. The last 124th scale jet was the Harrier.
Well, they've only done that one jet,
which was toured. That's 1974 that was first released. And you think, how come we're still getting World War II subjects? And obviously the 109 has just come out, and we've just had a new version of the Spitfire 9 and 8, etc. And a couple of the other manufacturers have jumped on to 24th as well, but they've just stuck with World War II subjects. But you think, hands up those that would actually want a 124th BAE Hawk.
Not worldwide presence.
But you've got them in the States, as Hawk. You've got them in Indonesia, Malaysia. You've got them worldwide. Slightly smaller than the Harrier. It would actually fit into the scale or the box size that you're actually looking at ideally for something like that. But we just aren't getting anything modern.
So do you think this 124th scale uptick we're seeing now is closely related and aligned to the Armour 1/16th scale explosion we've seen?
I think it is. And also I think it's a case of the modelers of our era, I shall say. I was absolutely prolific 172nd all the way through. Took a break from the hobby, came back to it post-COVID. I know, of course, working all the way through COVID, and I was actually working around the airfield at Coventry, listening and catching up on episodes I'd found of a podcast called On the Bench. So literally the whole of COVID, I was working, but I was listening to On the Bench all the way through. That's caught up from episode 1 and the latecomer joining sort of episode 9 or 10 or whoever, you know. Anyway, it was a case of my eyes. I had a problem post-COVID, and I found out I had cataracts.
Right.
And I had a type of cataract that I shouldn't have had until I was in my 80s, before anyone else says I'm nowhere near that. But it's a case of I came back with 48.
There's a lot of grey hairs there.
Yeah, I know, it's natural highlights. I've not had any plastic surgery.
Your hairline's nearly as high as my hairline.
Which is at the back.
True, but then again, you know, why thatch an empty barn compared to actually moss doesn't grow on a busy street?
Oh,
Children's are the best, eh?
Exactly, and you definitely are the oldie. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, I found that 72nd, I couldn't cope, even after having the surgery. As good as it was, 72nd, it just was giving me eye strain, so I went up to 48th. Now, with the Revell Meteor and the Kotare Spitz and stuff that they're releasing in 32nd, I'm finding instead of building multiple models, I'm concentrating and spending longer on larger scale models, and I can get more detail in. I see the 24th, as Dave said, as being the aviation equivalent to the 1/16th explosion in armour. And I'm just hoping that we are going to get to see more and more 24th, but I see it as being an age thing that we can actually see the parts easier, but you can also get the level of detail in that we're actually looking to actually as we're progressing through.
Brownie, do you not find that a hindrance sometimes, the fact that you can squeeze so much in there that before you know it, you're kind of burnt out with it?
Not so much. When you look at the 72nd and 48th toolings of some aircraft cockpits these days, and they're trying to mould as many components in, the way that I started out modelling, painting and actually putting stuff together prior to actually assembly into the cockpit. So you're looking at the trim wheels and the rudder pedals and things like that, and you'd actually do it either on the sprue or heater pins to get your plastic component on. Yes. Like say, I'm talking about going back in the day. You could actually do a large proportion of the smaller components you could do on the sprue or on the, you know, on heated pin, paint it, job done, and then assemble it rather than actually trying to everything being assembled these days. And even instructions and some of these YouTubers, when you actually watch their construction technique, is build, and then start to try and mask it and paint it afterwards. And you're thinking, it'd be so much easier if you painted it before you put it on. Exactly. And it's looking at the construction, but the larger scale models, it lends itself to actually building in that way. And it then could possibly flip the opposite direction of actually people thinking, oh, I could actually build it or paint it and get it ready prior to construction rather than post-construction and make my job a lot easier.
Yeah, I do find that with 1/24th scale, for me personally, it's about the space you've got on your shelf after. Because 72 scale, you can build a squadron and you can have it all displayed all in one go. The largest I've gone up to is 37 scale, and even that's big. But I've got 24th scale. I've got 2 Airfix Spitfires, yeah, where I don't think I'll ever build them because they're too big. But I'll relent on the 2 Airfix Harriers I've got. I've got a Sea Harrier and the actual GR1 as well. And I'll probably end up building them because I'm just a Harrier freak and I like them.
You know, going back to Airfix again, I think if Airfix just retool that Harrier, did a new, it'd be super popular. Yeah, mega popular.
Are you sure they haven't chucked the tool away?
No, because they just re-released it last year. They did a GR1 last year.
So the tool's still there, but why not actually go the whole hog and come out with a an AV8B / RAF GR7 GR9?
Well, gee, maybe if you had somebody from Airfix on next episode, you'd be able to ask those hard questions.
It won't be the next episode, but yes, they are. Dale has committed to actually coming on, so we will be ear-rolling him about the things of that nature. But
there's a good point made there. They've already got the mold sitting there. It's damn sight cheaper fixing the mold up than it is producing a brand spanking new one. I mean, they weren't that kit wasn't far off or far out, was it? Of the proper sort of dimensions and everything.
Dimensions and the look of it. Yeah, I think a lot of the problems are just the surface details a bit overdone, isn't it? Some of the rivets
and that's really easy to fix. Yeah, a toolmaker can fix that really easily.
But Luke from Revell, when he was on, he said it's actually cheaper and easier to produce a new tool than it is to modify an existing.
Oh, did he really?
They hit problems with the Hunter that they're bringing out next year, the T7 twin-seater. It's 27 years following the release of the single-seaters, which it was originally designed to follow on in quick succession. But they lost the CAD for the actual original tooling for the Hunter. So they've had to try and upscale parts of the Hunter kit and modify it to actually get the T7 parts to fit. And they've just found that it's a lot easier to basically, in some respects, scrap what they already had and start again.
Wow, I see that though.
That's why I was saying earlier on with the tooling, the cost of the tooling, because there's very little. All it is, it's inputting stuff into a computer. That does it. The CNC, what they can do with billets of aluminium and stainless steel today is it's astounding. You know what they can make. So it's not like the old days where it was literally the skill of a pattern maker to come along and carve all this stuff out. You know.
And in a lot of ways, the engraving equipment they used back in the day, they actually followed and traced a wooden former and used the tooling to actually...
Yeah, a wooden pack, yeah.
You know, it's the way that actual kits are designed and manufactured today compared to what they were back in the 60s and 70s is completely chalk and cheese.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do a 3D, because they can 3D print metal now. Isn't that it's doable? Oh,
They can, yeah, they can. But I think, the trouble is you have to have all the ejectors built into the tool, and as well as the cooling jackets and everything built into the tool. So these companies, they really hold their cards close to their chest when I'm yet to come across anybody who actually says actual price of producing a mold is. I don't know why.
Luke did actually say on one of our episodes about the cost of the tooling, and I don't want to misquote him, but for those interested, listen back to the Revell episode, and he does actually talk about the costs involved in producing the Meteor kit.
I'll have to go back and listen to that one again there, because I don't recall it actually saying the price of the actual to produce it.
I want to say it was about $120,000. It was around about $100,000 to $120,000 to actually produce the tooling,
which is the figure we spoke about or came up with about half hour ago.
Yeah. So we're in that ballpark, but yeah, you did actually allude to what the cost is. If you're investing that much money in the tooling, then you're actually shipping it to where you're getting it produced. And there's just so many different facets to it these days compared to just going down to the tool shop and actually getting a designer to actually make a modification to the tool, which, as you alluded to, Dave, it was easy back in the day to actually make a change compared to it on what is these days with the processes they actually use.
Well, I used to be, as I said, in the plastics industry sort of many years ago, and I've done both blow molding and injection. And I still work fairly closely with die makers and also with the tool makers as well, because they're the guys who used to sort of fix the the actual molds up. So I've got a fairly good understanding of how it's done. And I remember it being easier to fix an issue back then. They could add something on and then sort of shape, or they could take some more out of it, out of the mold itself. And for them, it wasn't too difficult at all. But then again, these are all sort of, senior sort of tradesmen that have been doing it ever since Adam was a boy. So
Yeah, very much so. Anyway, Dave, thank you very much for your time.
well, we come to the end of the show. Cheers, a shame. I've enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Come back again, please, Dave.
Well, it's funny. I was having so much fun chatting. It didn't even feel like we're doing the show at all. I thought we're just having a good yaks and mates sitting around. The only thing missing was a beer.
Oh, that's true.
We need to do that.
And before I go, I'll just quickly do a quick, not announcement, but notification though. Moles Without Borders on Facebook. So when you go there, it's a private group with 24K members. So we ask you, you're going to answer some questions. If you don't answer the questions, you're not going to get access to the group. And we do that to stop all these sort of weird people you're coming across on Facebook now trying to sell you swim underwear and all that sort of stuff. So if you're trying to get Moles Without Borders on Facebook, make sure that you answer the questions. And of course, on the Bench podcast, you can find us on Facebook and all other good places where you get your podcasts from.
Indeed. Dave, thank you very much for your time. We will get you back in the future. And something I think that hasn't been done for a very long time is a multi-pod conversation.
Yes, we need to do a multi-pod. But the difficulty is because there's so many podcasters, so many people on these podcasts, you're going to have to sort of break it up and maybe have we'll think about how we're going to do that moving forward. But it's something I agree we need to do. It's always good fun, isn't it?
Oh, very much. I used to really enjoy listening to the different opinions and the different accents, etc., and just thinking, one day I'd like to actually be involved in something like that. Stupidly enough, I actually got into that position.
And congratulations, guys, to a tearaway success for your podcast. It's a breath of fresh air. I like the direction you're coming from, the aircraft sort of side of things, and the European perspective too, which is, I think it's an interesting angle you got there, which we don't sort of necessarily see over the other side of the planet. So it's good, and it's good to hearing all the sort of IRA type accents coming through, because there's not enough of that on podcasts at the moment either.
Very much so. And I hasten to add, I am not from the north.
All right, Chuck, no worries.
You can't beat a bit of Manchester, even though that's bedding in Australia, isn't it, Manchester? In Australia, Manchester, doesn't that mean bedding or something, or cotton? Or...
Yeah, I mean bedding and towels and all that sort of stuff. I've got a funny story to tell you about Manchester, but it'll be it'll have to be another time and perhaps off mic. But anyways,
oh, is it an after dark version?
Oh, it's not an after dark version. I think I better leave off the airways rather on. Yeah, anyhow.
Nothing wrong with Manchester, mate. Just be careful.
Have they got a football club or something there in Manchester? Have they?
Yeah, we've got two. Yeah, two.
Two? Yeah. You're good enough for two, you reckon?
It's funny how you can go off people, innit?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, Dave, as someone who doesn't follow football, I just keep watching the news these days, and apparently one of the teams has changed its name to Manchester United 0, because that's what they normally say.
Oh, really? Ah. Well, if you get sick of watching football, you can always go and watch cricket. Oh, wait, you haven't got a good cricket team either, have you?
Oh, that's fighting talk.
Oh, God.
How are they doing in the Ashes now? I know Australia have won one side of the Ashes. How many more games? Are there any more games gone up? Have they done any more yet?
The other thing, I know the next big one that I'm aware of is Boxing Day, which is a big one in Melbourne. Yeah, it's a sad affair, isn't it? Used to be the empire in which the sun never sets, and now look at it.
True. Now there's an idea for a multi-podcast, the colonial version.
Ah,
get the Canadians.
Yes, the Commonwealth. That's a good idea. The trouble is the Commonwealth. Well, to see Stuart over there, he's got a couple of the ones from south of the border on his show as well. So it didn't quite work. We're going to figure it out though.
Well, I know, but we just have to drink tea on the episode and actually unwind them up.
Yeah. Well, we have cheese in our fries and say, hey, all the time.
Yeah, quite. Oh, dear. Dave, thank you very much. And also, thank you very much for the parcel you sent across. The guys haven't had it yet because we haven't had a meeting to actually get face to face.
Oh,
but it's much appreciated.
oh well, they'll like it. Yeah, I'm sure they'll like it. And likewise, again, thanks to you guys as well, because I know that as I said, you're doing a great job over there. Keep doing what you're doing and stay true. It's really good.
Thank you very much, Dave. Speak to you again in the future.
Lovely to talk to you, Dave.
No worries. See you later, chap.
Cheers, Dave. Ta-ra.
Cheers, Dave.
Cheers. See you, Dave.
Yeah. Cheers, Dave.
Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking for top quality paints for your next project? Then look no further than the Scale Modeler Supply. Hi, I'm Scott, and as a passionate modeler myself, I've spent years creating the SMS product range, designing them specifically with a scale modeler in mind. We've worked extensively to develop our acrylic lacquer paint range to not only be airbrush ready straight out of the bottle, but also to be very easy to use so that anyone of any skill level can create professional results with minimal effort. Just give the bottle a good shake, pour into your airbrush and spray at 15 psi. So dive into your next project with confidence, knowing that you're backed by one of the finest hobby paints on the market. Head over to our website scalemodeler.com.au to check out our full range and to find your closest retailer.
Right then, Benchmates, that's the end of episode 18. Thank you very much to John for joining us for this episode. But from Boulders,
bye all.
From Mark,
Happy New Year, everyone. Goodbye.
James,
Ta-ra, everyone.
From Dan,
See you, Benchmates. Happy New Year.
And from John,
Happy New Year, everybody, and see you soon.
And from myself, thank you for listening. Enjoy the New Year festivities, as it is obviously dropping on the 1st of January. And if you've actually tuned in first thing in the morning, I'll make sure there's some bagpipes at the start of the episode to really help the episode go along with the twist. Anyway, with that, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.